Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxx TV's podcast 503.
We've got a wonderful guest tonight at some point.
Maybe.
I mean, that's true. You never know. He could tell us he's ready to go, and suddenly someone could interrupt it with labor.
Yeah. And we know you're not running out and doing physical labor.
Oh, God, no.
Nor am I.
No, I mean...
Not right now. Only because it's, getting dark.
It is getting dark.
Chilly.
I do. It's the temperature is supposed to drop the next 3 days. So
yeah. So we won't drop it like it's hot. But yes, tonight, any moment now. In fact, I think I see him popping into our green room. We're going to have our Music City Open champion in Simon Lizotte. Two-time.
Give the man some respect.
Well, yeah.
Two-time. You are constantly.
Two-time Pro Tour, one-time non-Pro Tour. So he's technically a three-time, if we're really going to get technical.
I know. You're constantly disrespecting him on this podcast, and I'm sick of the Simon slander.
Well, I'm ready to say it to his face, and he's hopefully ready for it. Yeah, looks like he's pretty ready to go. I think he can hear us. Either way, this man's always ready. We're going to welcome to the show Simon Lizotte.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, buddy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
We can.
Which is always a good thing,
Perfect.
because without doing a little testing beforehand, it's a
flip of a
It's
coin.
always a flip of a coin on your side or ours.
Well, I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, so are
How's
we.
it going?
So, good, man. You, first of all, get it right out of the way. Congratulations. Big weekend. Here we are, 48 hours later, roughly.
I almost just put our podcast on from last year. Because with the two of the same winners, do we really need to rehash all of this? We're going to ask Simon the same thing. How did it go? He's going to be like, I didn't feel any different, but I shot better than everybody else. Thanks, Simon. See you later. Click.
All right. Well, I've got more original questions.
Okay, good.
But let's start with how does it feel? How much has it sunk in your home? How does it all feel?
It feels great. Awesome timing to get that win right before my big break, which is kind of open-ended. I'm not sure when I'm going to come back. It obviously all depends on how birth goes, how Natalia's doing, how the baby's doing. At the end of that list, at some point, how I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, how slow those first couple tournaments were for me, and kind of nothing was really going my way, and I'm starting to doubt things. And AB and Gannon Burr and a couple other younger players were just dominating the field on every freaking course, and a lot of doubts start creeping in your mind. Like, am I still good enough? Like, can I ever win again? Like, those are questions, of course, you ask yourself. So it was definitely a relief and a pretty cool feeling to just kind of cruise through that one and make sure that I remember and everyone else remembers. Yeah, we're still there.
Well, I mean, a couple questions. One, even during the press conference, you flat out said, I don't know how long I can do this. Or what did you mean by that? Do you meant touring, playing? I mean, you literally signed a 10-year contract. I'm sure the MVP guys were probably going like, no, you can do this for like 8 more years, Simon. I think.
Least.
So what did you mean by that?
What I basically meant that leaving home is getting harder and harder every time I leave. And it's just kind of so heartbreaking leaving my family behind over and over again. I know Terry's in the same boat pretty often, and he's managed a way to kind of do it. And I don't think everyone can do that. And I might be a person who it's just not that easy for. Not saying that it's easy for Terry, because I'm sure there's struggles there too. But man, I like being home. I like being with family, and I love disc golf. But the whole travel aspect is just getting, I don't know, tiring might be the right word, exhausting, and just kind of very repetitive at this point. We've been going to the same stops for so many years now. It's always super nice and refreshing to have a new tour stop, in my opinion. And I've never been someone who really enjoyed this whole touring thing. Of course, I've learned a lot, and I would recommend anyone to travel when you get the chance. But this is my 11th year full time. To Terry, that's a very small number. But that's why I just had that thought. I don't know how much longer I can do these full tours. Of course, I'll always play disc golf. Um, I love what I do still, and I love competing. But these full tours, maybe a handful more years, and I'm just pretty certain that once I can stop, I will stop.
So does that mean, do you think that means for you, rather than 4 or 5 weeks out on the road, it's maybe a 2-week stint? Like you do, for instance, we'll take this year, you do MCO and then Champions Cup, and then you go home for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you fly out and maybe hit Portland and Beaver State, and you come back for a few weeks. Like you really kind of, in the future, we're not talking anytime soon, hopefully, you just kind of make it a smaller condensed tour, like a bunch of mini tours? Is that what you see? Or do you see Simon Lizotte, regional pro?
Yeah, it's hard to say a bit because we have a baby coming in 2 days, and who knows what's going to change after that. But right now, I'm kind of at a point where 2 weeks on tour is my max. I remember 2 years ago, my 30 weeks was my max, so that already decreased by a week. And I'm already feeling now that on a 2 week trip, I'm like talking to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to do these 2 week trips anymore. For me, it's great if I can leave home on Wednesday, practice day Thursday, play the tournament, be home Monday. That is acceptable to me. Anything beyond that feels not great.
Do you
I don't know.
Do you think maybe in we'll say 2 years things change? Because bringing an infant, never ideal. But do you think maybe you could travel with the family? Like, hey, guess what? We're all going to go to the Pacific Northwest, and your youngest, which I don't know if you've announced boy or girl yet. Have you?
Girl.
Okay.
Maybe. I was pretty quiet about this whole thing.
SmashBoxx
anyway.
exclusive. We're gonna call it. We're gonna call it an exclusive.
Yeah.
Simon's having a girl.
I've said it multiple times. It's a daughter.
Well,
all right, whatever.
So,
but is the name Allison or Mackenzie?
We don't know. We're still debating the name because we have a name, but it's too similar to my brother's daughter's name, kind of. And then we don't know if we care about that or if we don't care about that. So we've been going back and forth.
I've got two cousins, Kaylee and Kylie, and trust me, it was miserable. You don't want that. So do you see in 2 years, like going out to the Pacific Northwest with like the family for 2 weeks, or hey, we're gonna hit Texas for 2 weeks, or Florida for 2 weeks? Like, do you see that as an option until the kids? I mean, because there's a small window before your oldest then gets into school, and then it's summer vacation stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've thought about it all. We've thought about buying a big RV and trying that, but that would probably be fun for a couple of weeks and then also kind of miserable. Taking kids on airplanes and rental homes, and I mean, when I'm playing tournaments, I'm gonna be like super exhausted mentally and physically after all my rounds, and Natalia's gonna be dealing with kids in a place she's not familiar with, and it's just never as fun and easy as it looks on paper, doing trips with kids.
No, I totally get that. So my other question for you is there any part of you that's a little disappointed that you're not playing Champions Cup this weekend now that you feel like you have, like, oh, look, I stunk in the beginning of the season. I'm finally getting my mojo back. Champions Cup would be awesome to play because maybe I can perform well there. Or do you not think that there is a rhyme or reason, so to speak, to your playing well? Are you the type of player that it's like, no, this week I played well, next week there's no, I could take 52nd at Northwood Black and and just, I'm happy to be home.
I mean, historically, you could probably say that if I win 1 week, you don't really know what's going to happen next week. I've never really been the most consistent guy out there, or someone who really has really momentum, I think, from one tournament to the next. Sometimes I feel like I do, but then other times I don't. So I wouldn't say that there's an actual pattern in my disc golf game. Is there a part of me that's a bit sad? I think probably no.
Okay.
If the tournament was at W.R. Jackson, probably a little bit. I definitely remember when because at the beginning of this year it was rescheduled a couple times
Yeah.
and relocated a couple times. And when it landed on this, I definitely was disappointed that I knew instantly, okay, I'm not going to play it. And playing Northwood Black 4 times also seems like a no thanks for me.
Okay, that answers the question. Like if the course doesn't excite you, then I mean obviously there's always the chance at winning a major, which gets some players really excited. But if the course is kind of like then I mean enjoy the time off. As stressful as the next probably 3 days are going to be in some way or another, it's enjoy it while you can. Enjoy having a single kid as long as you can.
When it's all said,
little boy and his terrible twos.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So, if you don't mind, if we
better.
get into that, you said right away during your awards, your victory speech or interview. Sorry, wow. When I'm not there, I don't even know what to call it. You were talking about how like Thursday's the day, clearly pre-planned and set up. Was even that decision of what day? Obviously, there's the physicality of what she's going through, but how did that conversation come about? And was there the thought of not even then being at MCO? Where like, did you book a ticket last moment even to go to MCO?
Well, the way dates are set is just the doctor kind of does the math, or I don't know exactly how the process works. Basically, Natalia just told me this is the date, and I was like, okay.
Okay.
She said that's what the doctor said, and what the doctor says is what we will do. I definitely offered Natalia to not play, even Jonesboro. I was like, this 2-week trip is not necessary in my book. It's not necessary for me. If you want support here at home and help, I'm totally cool with that, because I don't know, going to Arkansas again, it was like, I don't know. But it is a very fun course, so I did end up going because basically Natalia convinced me to go. She told me, come on, I can do this. Do these 2 more tournaments, and then you're off. And she always believes that I will do better, and it'll be worth it. Whereas sometimes I lack belief, but she did. So I know it's totally worth it now. Yeah, she was right.
You came home with a kick-ass guitar.
Such a cool guitar. Oh man, when I first saw that guitar, I'm not really someone who goes to a tournament and is like, oh my god, I really want to win, especially not for the trophy's sake.
Yeah.
But this is a different story. I saw it on Thursday morning, and I was like, damn, would that be nice to put that next to my other one.
For everyone that like us who know nothing about any musical instruments, maybe break down like why you see that and what about it appeals to you. How is it different from the other one? Talk to us like we're guitar idiots, because we are.
Well, I'm a bit of a guitar idiot when it comes to electric guitars as well.
Okay.
So I don't know too much about these, but they're basically 2 different models that Gibson makes. Whatever that means, they're different body types and probably have different stuff on them.
Okay.
Basically, they just look different, and that one just looked so nice and clean to me. The model type is called a Les Paul, which is an absolute classic in the guitar world, and it's an extremely famous guitar. And have a custom Les Paul at home, I think is just pretty badass.
There is a Les Paul who has roots here and is from
the same guy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Right here in Wisconsin, in Waukesha. So that's like 15 minutes from my house. Just last night, taking my daughter to volleyball, you take the Les Paul Highway. All obviously same guy, so all the roots and everything. But I don't know anything about the guitars.
Just that he invented the electric guitar. That's kind of what we all know about Les Paul.
So
he's one of the pioneers in electric guitar stuff.
Is that a trophy then? Obviously you've had the successes there, and we talked about it at the top of the show. You won that event when it was actually a B tier back in the day. Obviously back to back here now. Is is that an event that would ever get old, or a trophy that would ever get old, is getting these various models of guitar year after year? Would you ever be like, okay, now I have 6 of them. Like that, I don't need any more. Like, would that
Like
ever
Partridge
get old
Family?
to you? Yeah. Or you want to just keep racking them up?
I would love to keep racking them up. I don't think it could be a much cooler thing to collect as the coolest trophy in our sport.
Okay. Okay.
Do you think, for you, is there a, like, you must have thought about this, like, what other kind of cool trophies, like an awesome pool stick, you know, a really cool ball rack for pool or something? I mean, I'm trying to think of something darts related, maybe an awesome dartboard. You know, are those things that you could see as cool trophies for you particularly, or do you have a different idea?
I think you nailed it, and I've
All
actually
right.
never thought about that.
Oh, I didn't like. I just think of like what for you particularly. I'm sure every player has an idea of like what they do. Like, you know,
Yeah, if you're
like
good
Eagle with his custom kendama ball and
sure.
thing like that could be kind of cool. But I suppose like a
Yeah.
dartboard could be really cool depending on how it is.
Could be really cool.
I think the challenge is, just like we saw at last year in Rochester 2 years ago, is when you make a connection, like obviously this makes sense, Music City, guitars, you know, all that stuff. If you go outside of something that's not maybe regional and you just go to something else cool, then a lot of people will have a hard time making any kind of connection if there's not that semi-obvious connection. Like we're, you know, just, I mean, like if you got a crazy bowling pin from here in Wisconsin in a Milwaukee-based event, that wouldn't be crazy knowing that bowling was headquartered right here in Milwaukee for, you know, decades. But if you go outside of some of those and you get the coolest pool cue in the world, but you're playing some tournament in New Mexico, like people be like,
Yeah, I mean, it has to associate with the city.
Yeah, I think every city has something that it associates with.
I think we could probably find a city or two that likes beer or has beer associations. I've heard you
Enjoy.
I've actually barely been drinking this year.
Yeah, okay.
It's been a very, very easygoing year for me, and just according to my doctor, he said if I can drink less, I should drink less, and I've actually barely had anything to drink this year.
Doctors always
every
say
now
that
and
crap,
then-
I was
though.
going to say, I feel like doctors are always that downer, though. I think they say it to everybody, right?
Yeah, but I have like a bit elevated cholesterol,
Okay.
which
And?
and apparently animal products and alcohol and stuff like don't help.
Okay.
And it's actually nice. It's actually really nice to not want to have a beer every day.
Yeah, no, I'll say it, I'm with you. Like at the beginning of the year, we have free soda at work at my office. So anytime I want, I can walk over and get a can of Coke. No problem. I was drinking way too much. And so this is the beginning of the season, or the beginning of the year, I just kind of said, I'm done. I'm going to go a year without drinking Coke. Just not going to do it at work or at home. We don't have it at home. So it is kind of nice. It takes you a while to not think about it. Because I walk by that fridge every day. Like, hey, there it is. I could just grab one. Like, no. And at some point, you just kind of, you don't even think about it anymore.
Self-control.
Yeah.
What? Explain for everyone, you know, here we are, we're seeing you at these events. Obviously, now you're about to take time off. Your life is going to take a very different, turn, all for the good and continue to flourish. But what is like a typical week like when you're not necessarily competing? What has that been like? What's your year been like? I mean, you just talked about a couple of health habits and some things you're going through in the time with the family. Pull back the curtain. What does that look like for you on we'll say a typical week where maybe you're not playing?
So an off-season week and kind of a week between events is pretty different.
Mm-hmm.
In the off-season, I have like a pretty set schedule with going to the gym, doing some putting practice, and spending time with family and stuff. It's much more organized because I have like so many weeks in a row where I need to get stuff done. And the weeks between tournaments is a bit kind of open because my wife's a stay-at-home mom. when I'm home, I don't really have quote unquote a real job. So we can kind of do kind of whatever we want, and it's all mostly spontaneous. And I just try to do as much as possible with my son when I'm home, like take him to some kids events like library and little gym, swimming, all those stuffs you do with toddlers. And if I don't get sick during that week, that's a bonus because usually you get sick when you start doing kid stuff. Um, yeah, and when we're home, when the weather is a bit crappy, I play some pool when I have a chance, or some darts, or just play with my son, or we watch some movies. Normal stuff, like nothing out of the ordinary, I think.
What I guess maybe then, at what point does it turn into any form of MVP or sponsor collaboration, development, media? When do those obligations come about, and how intense are those?
It's also not really scheduled. That's one of my biggest struggles, and something I probably need to change in the upcoming years is to have like some kind of working hours where I'm like, this is when I'm doing emails and business stuff, taking phone calls or meetings, whatever. Because Andrew, who's my contact at MVP, I'll call him almost on a daily basis, randomly, kind of, or he'll call me, and we'll just talk about new stamps coming, new disc molds, new ideas, or whatever, whatever. And that's one of the biggest frustrations that Natalia has with me, that she like never knows when I'm on the phone if it's a business phone call or an important phone call or just something, just like a friend, or we're just blabbering. So she like never knows when I'm working, because I could just be on my phone working, or I could be on my phone just scrolling through useless stuff. And yeah, we don't really have a routine or a schedule with anything, which I think we should probably change, because it brings up a couple frustrations here and there when we don't know when I'm doing what or who's supposed to do what at what time.
Yeah, I can understand that, because when disc golf is your life, whether it's playing or doing media, or having these obligations with such a large sponsorship partnership that you have with MVP, it all kind of blends together. And for someone like you, I would assume, as someone like me, it doesn't necessarily always feel like work, but when you add it all up, it takes up a lot of your time. And then if it's scattered throughout a 16-hour time frame, others have no idea what is going on and how crucial that it is. So I can understand you looking for a little bit more
Also,
structure.
It's also hard to say a bit like what's my job when I'm home. When I'm not practicing becoming better at disc golf, sometimes I define my job as listening to a disc golf podcast. That's part of my job. I'm working as I'm listening to a podcast because I'm learning about recent events or statistics or whatever disc golf podcasts talk about. And I feel like I need to know about that stuff because I'm not doing the research myself. Or when I'm scrolling through Instagram, seeing what the other pros are doing. Is that working, or am I just being bored and looking through my phone?
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember when I felt like at one point Facebook was consuming so much of my time. This is, a decade ago, and I had created a second profile where I've dedicated that to disc golf. And I really genuinely thought, well, no, if I'm learning that, well, Simon's having a kid and it's a boy or whatever, or a girl. And like when I'm learning these things, that's going to make me a better interviewer. That's going to make me do my job better overall. And it's not just doom scrolling or scrolling for the heck of it. And even to this day, I kind of feel like, am I learning stuff when I'm scrolling? Sometimes you get caught up in the weeds, right, of the really dumb stuff that you don't need. But lots of times it's helpful because when someone says, oh, I don't know, Hannah Wynn's not playing this weekend, I'm like, oh yeah, she's at a concert in Vegas with Chris Clemens. Like, then you just know that because you paid attention to their socials. So it's a funny balance like that. It's
the reason I tell my wife, like, all weekend when I have disc golf on the TV from basically 9 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m., I kind of just be like, well, I kind of have to know this. It's part of my job. It's part of what it makes me a better, at the podcast. And she looks at me and she goes, really? Like, your side gig? And I'm like, okay, maybe, but
so with all of that we just said, 2024 has been, of course, exciting and electric and all of these things. what to you has been the most some of the standout moments so far in an early 2024 so far? And this could be anything, anyone, any division, anything, anywhere. What kinds of things stand out to you in 2024?
I really enjoyed watching AB win for the first time. Because we've all been waiting for that moment and we knew what was going to come afterwards. I mean, we've been talking about it for many years, and hats off to AB that he's actually doing what everyone thought he was going to do when the seal rips or breaks, or however you say that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. Enjoyed that one. Watching Niklas get his first win was awesome as well. I might have cried. Don't remember.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very cool seeing that. What else has happened? The problem is that everything's a blur to me. So many things are going on.
Okay, well, let's because I know you're friends. Obviously, you have your international component to it, and you're friends with them. But on the FPO side, the parity, the fact that we, at one point had 5 different winners in 5 different events. Kristen finally just became a repeat winner, so to speak, in 2024. But what do you make of, we'll say, the international component of our FPO division this year in particular? The Evelinas and so on and so forth.
I mean, it's killer. I think what's happening to the FPO now with the internationals, quote unquote, taking over is going to happen in the MPO sooner than later, or hopefully soon-ish, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. Because anyone who's ever been to Finland knows if you go to this golf course, who's out there playing. It's 13 to 15-year-old kids, and they all throw better than all of us. So one day we'll have a bunch of 18 to 25-year-old Finns who are Niklases, and hundreds, maybe thousands of them. And that's going to change the game, in my opinion.
Do you feel like with that, and I completely can see that happening as well, in how it's, to me, it's going to feel like just like a herd of players just show up and they're like, oh, like, we're here.
Like one season, suddenly it's like, why is there 12 or 14 Finns
all in the top
field?
20 at an event? Do you feel like when that happens in the next 10 years, will they all be coming to the U.S.? Will the U.S., do you feel like, will still be kind of the end goal, as opposed to maybe having their big name and being impressive in Finland and Europe, but the U.S. will be kind of the destination where they have to still officially prove themselves? Or do you feel like Finland and other places will catch up?
I'm not sure. There's a small part of me that thinks there's a chance. I don't know how big of a chance, but I think there is a chance that the main tour might move to Europe. Almost all of it. Which is hard to think about right now because 99% of pros are Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we're talking about big sponsorships and real big events with TV coverage and kind of that next level gallery / event running that we've been dreaming of for many years, and we already see it here and there, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the European market, talking about more of the Nordic countries like Sweden, Finland, Estonia, etc., I think there's a chance that they will find that next level. And I'm not sure that America can find that next level the way Europe could. And that might change a lot. I don't know if this is going to happen or when, but I think there's a chance that might happen, and that then there's going to be some switch. I don't know if it's going to be a complete switch or just like a 50-50 split between the tours, or if there's going to be multiple tours. I don't know.
Damn. Like that's a big statement. And I guess I'd follow that up with my little exposure of being over there for a few events in the last 5 years. I think of a Ford, who we've seen, Ford cars and trucks, whatever, who we've seen at Toonie, who we've seen at the European Open. Like, obviously, Kristen and Porsche specifically this year, Air Baltic this year over in Estonia with Kristen. When I think of those brands, I think of how big those brands are. And I think BMW or Mercedes has been involved with some of the events over there. Is that who you're kind of looking at and saying, hey, some of these people might drop a few million euros and then be contenders for the Premier Tour?
I'm not necessarily talking about any brand specifically.
Okay.
It could be a car brand. It could be any drink or any big brand who sponsors big sporting events. I'm not too familiar with how all that works and who does what. I just think that with the attention disc golf gets in these countries and how different it's looked at as like an actual, real, legit sport, and not something you just go play for free with your friends and have a beer. It's just going to be different. And I really, really hope I get to go to the European Open and to the European Disc Golf Festival this year to see if everything I heard is true. And then World Championships next year. I actually had a pretty long phone call with UC couple weeks ago, and that's going to be the most next level disc golf event we've ever seen. That's going to be really exciting.
Which one?
And maybe a huge milestone for the sport. 2025 World Championships.
The 2025. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe to reword what I think you're saying is disc golf over there, like what's a small pebble thrown into a giant ocean here, being disc golf, getting thrown in is nothing. And when you go over there, like, disc golf is a large rock being thrown into a much smaller pond, and we make a bigger splash as a sport over there in many of those countries. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's just different. It's hard to. It's actually almost crazy to try to compare the U.S. with European countries. It almost makes no sense because they're so vastly different in size and population. It's just a totally different thing. You can't really compare the two places. Like, people always ask me, how do you compare the U.S. to Germany? Like, that question itself doesn't really make much sense because they're just so fundamentally different in every way, especially the size. Like, Germany is barely the size of one state. It's just a whole different concept of country.
And Simon, you can elaborate, but just going to a Tuesday night league night, so to speak, or a mini or whatever they call it, in some of these countries, whether it was one I was in Estonia or in Finland or wherever, like, it's just a completely different, much more serious, much more professional vibe. Like, all of it. It just feels different. The way people approach disc golf in a lot of those countries, and of course I don't have years of experience being there and seeing it. It's just, it all feels very different and so much more elevated.
Which honestly isn't necessarily what a lot of people want here.
Correct.
Like
right?
the weekend league or the weekday league night, Tuesday night league. A lot of people do want to show up, maybe have a party, have a beer beforehand, play with the 4 discs and the plastic bag, and shoot your cool. I shot under par. Let's go now. Let's go out to the bar and have another drink. Like, that's
or 6
or whatever. That's what a lot of our leagues are, because it's more so. It might be more socially minded here versus over there. I don't know. I haven't been over there yet.
That's a whole different question. If we even want disc golf to change like this, that is a whole different question that is hard to think about.
Yeah, and I think we'll continue to see these differences grow as players and students, and like you said, 12 and 13 and 15-year-olds are going, like, they're getting done with school at 2 or 3 o'clock, and then they're going and legitimately practicing for 2 to 6 hours every day after school as a club sport. Like, they're just like growing up differently even than how everyone's being treated here.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have that, just not in that concentration. You know, you might have a handful of kids all throughout our country, which, as Simon says, legitimately much bigger.
Yeah.
That we have. Look, I mean, you're Gannon Burr, who's been playing since he's been like 10 years old or whatever, 8 years old, I don't know. And you know, he's clearly a phenom. Just, he's built for it. It's a perfect body type. He has everything you need. It's just different.
Yeah, but when there's 50 Gannons coming out of Finland or Sweden soon, it won't be as much of an anomaly.
I hope so, but we've been saying it for 10 years as well, though. And
they're
yet,
coming.
And yet, I think they are. I'm just saying, like, it's. I feel like for what Simon was saying, moving over, like, will the tour move over there? I don't think the tour will move over there until we see a large portion of those players hit like 1040. You have to have a group like there. Otherwise, we're always, and we're going to be a bigger market. The U.S. is always going to be the bigger market. We're going to look at them and go like, yeah, that's cool. It kind of feels like Malibu. Yeah, you're 1050, but when you come over here, you're really 1020. Like that's what we think here. And I'm not throwing shade at Malibu by any means. But that's how the U.S. will look at it, and that's just the nature. Until they can come over here and beat our best players, we have. The U.S. has an attitude, and I'm not saying it's better or worse, but that's just how we look at things.
What excites you most? Maybe you have details, maybe you don't. But what excites you most about the international component of being in Finland for Worlds next year, and the Estonian Disc Golf Festival and all those things? What are some of the things that excite you specifically?
I'm really excited for the galleries. That's always a huge plus when you're actually playing, and it feels like it's a sporting event and not just your local 100 to 300 people, local disc golfers come out and watch because you happen to be in town. It's going to be, let's just talk about the 2025 Worlds. It's going to be one of the first, I don't know historically all the numbers of World Championships and how many countries have competed. I know that in the recent years, probably also largely because of COVID, of course, it's been very, very few countries. And I've been to multiple European Championships where we have like 30 plus countries as the European Championships. And then we go World Championships and there's like 8 countries competing.
Sure.
Which is always very sad. So I'm really looking forward to probably the biggest international disc golf event of all time. I don't know how many countries will show up for the 2025 Worlds, but it's going to be a number disc golf has never seen before.
Yeah, and again, I think that's obviously based on a lot of just the sheer geography. I mean, the fact that we're hosting, a B tier in Thailand, and we get 18 countries or 21 countries because they're all so tiny and so close. But it's going to be for sure the most diverse Worlds we have ever seen. Do you think players that are longer shots at winning, and I'll say your 10-10s and below? Do you think we'll see a lot of them not maybe go because it'll be cost prohibitive or anything like that, or maybe how many U.S. players will get shut out because they're going to open up internationally? How do you think that response is going to be from the U.S.?
I mean, I think most people are very excited that it's finally not in the U.S. I mean, because I feel like disc golf is at a point now where it kind of the biggest event we have in our sport, the World Championships, that's what it's called. It should not be hosted in the same country every year. And I kind of think for the last 15 to 20 years, we've kind of been waiting for that moment where a European country steps up and gets the bid or is just ready to host an event of that size. And I think I don't know how it will work with how many spots countries will get. Like, I think every country will get a specific number of players that they're even allowed to send to Worlds. I think we'll have 2 courses, so we're going to have like 200 something players probably. And the US is obviously going to get the majority of the slots, maybe half of them. So let's say 120 people are allowed to go, something like that. And And I think those 120 spots will fill up extremely easily. But there's obviously a lot of people who want to go who are not going to get to go.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. International always has gotten kind of the first wave of invites, so to speak. That happens at Am Worlds and Junior Worlds and so on and so forth. Even some of our big A tiers, the Memorial we'll use that as an example, opens up to international players first, and they're going to have a tougher than ever balancing act.
Is that going to be the case for 2025 Worlds when it is overseas? Though
that's a good question. I'll be interested.
Well, the way
to see
European Championship does it is that every country gets an allotment of players that are allowed to sign up, and like Finland would get like 25, Germany would get like 8, Sweden would get 15. Like it basically just, I don't know how they do it, but I wonder if they're going to do it like that.
That's what I mean. Is Worlds traditionally isn't. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Worlds specifically isn't necessarily based on some of those same criteria. So again, we got a ways to worry before we have to really worry about it. But
personally, I hope they kind of just open it up to start with 75 U.S. players. Bring your actual like tour, quote unquote, tour card touring players. The men and women, and we're just talking MPO right now because obviously we've got probably 20 to 25 FPO as well in for the US at least. But 75 MPO players, there's the US. Now let's open it up to the rest of the international. And if it doesn't fill, cool. Guess what? The rest of you can come from the US. But to be honest, I know it sounds silly. Your 10, 15 rated player from the US, you don't need to go. Like
no, they want to, but they have a long shot at winning.
Agreed. Yes. If you're not invited, too stinking bad. I'd rather see a 1,010 rated player from Finland than a 10-18 player from the US. Somewhere around there. Even if they have less of a chance. So yeah.
Again, things we don't have to worry about. Everyone's going to complain about it eventually. So we'll save that for a podcast like 6 months from now when all of this gets announced, and then everybody can be up in arms because everyone's going to have a different view about how it should have went down. You just mentioned, though, talking to UC, lots of different things. I'm sure when you think about the international play and the travel and things of that nature, MVP is not part of the House of Dis, which obviously was a very big thing within our sport in the last couple of years. Do you have any input as to how you feel like that's gone down? I mean, we just saw an announcement that Dynamic is absorbing a lot of the Discmania people. They recently just announced that they're shutting down Discmania warehousing in Colorado, and that impacts a lot of people. How do you feel about the overall concept of House of Dis and what it's meant for our sport?
Terry, I'm the total wrong guy to ask. When it comes to business and finances, I am so absolutely uneducated and uninterested almost.
Okay.
I don't know what House of Discs does or how they function or who runs it or why. I literally don't care. And the second I first heard of them, I stopped reading after the first sentence because I knew I wasn't going to be interested. And it's just something I don't have to worry about, and I totally do not worry about, and I've never looked into. And totally, when anyone talks to me about it, I just don't pay attention, and I have no idea what House of Discs is or does.
Interesting.
Honestly. I've heard people talk about it. I know that they're a big company that bought other companies, but what that actually means and what they actually do, I have no clue.
So there's something to be said then with you saying all of that, which I can understand and respect. There's something to be said about you knowing your check is coming, your weekly or monthly checks are signed by MVP who are not part of it. And as far as you're concerned, that sounds good to you, right? Just doesn't matter.
I don't even know what the difference would be if they were part of House of Discs.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we won't.
Would that make a difference for me or no?
It could. And here's why. Yes, your checks might be the same and they're still coming. However, it might matter if there's this friendly collaboration of you and some other brands, and maybe you look more favorably upon a co-brand in Castoplast, or it's still in Discmania, a company you just left. Like, yeah, in some ways, maybe minor or major, I feel like your attitude would be slightly altered in even the slightest of ways if you were under the same umbrella, because technically, like, you're just that. You're under the same umbrella.
Well, I mean, this weekend,
there has to be some cohesion.
Chris and Tatar was hanging out at the DD booth signing discs.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is, you know, Latitude, Westside, and DD have been, you know, kind of a core group for a while now. But yeah, when you factor in, like I said, a Discmania, who's them and Castoplast are all getting shipped out of Emporia now. Like, yeah, there's things that go with that.
I think Simon's eyes just glazed over.
And that's fine. And I don't think he go on it anymore.
No, quick question. Is this topic of House of Discs being like a good thing or a bad thing? Is that like 50-50 split in how people think? Or is it pretty clear if it's good or not?
I don't think it's 50-50. I think because of the culture of our sport, I would lean it more maybe 60-40 that people are very weary of it. People are very weary of the large corporation coming in, gobbling up these small ones. Cool, guess what? Now they're going to get rid of Castoplast, and those discs are going to go over to Discmania, and then Discmania discs are going to get changed to whatever, and they all have the same plastic. And I mean, again, I'm just repeating things that I've read on the internet. I think it's like a 60-40 that a lot of people are very nervous and very much weary of this large organization coming in to gobble up disc golf when it was at its peak, and whether or not that looks good now, 2 years later, as we've kind of hit a plateau. I don't know. I just think it's part of our culture in the US, at least, to look at this as big corporation, scary
venture capitalists that, you know, may not be involved with disc golf, but are only looking at bottom lines, where cuts happen, you know, and worrying about profitability maybe over partnerships and friendships, and maybe a little more laid back atmosphere. And now there's people that are, you know, just a little more like, hey, let's look at these numbers.
People are actually adding up the numbers now. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think who knows where the perception is? It might even be 70-30 in terms of people not loving the idea. And it kind of goes against our culture of like a little bit more laid back, hippie, grassroots.
I mean, think of MVP and Innova and Discraft and Legacy, like
these families,
these garages that started printing these discs, and now we have we've got the people over in Sweden who have these state of the art manufacturing, and this company was like, cool, that looks good, let's buy them. Like it's just a different idea, and I don't know. I'm not personally 50-50 on it. It doesn't, like Simon, it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect me yet. We'll see when things really start to,
when they buy us out, it will.
Oh my God, if they're going to give us a big contract, I'm all here for it. Let me tell you how great Discmania is.
All right. So back to, so we'll go business adjacent to you, MVP, and projects. What can people be excited about? Tell us about, you know, what's been released that's going well, but also tell us kind of what's in the pipeline for you.
Well, we're working right now on obviously like a special edition disc that I just will get for my win this weekend. Those are always special. Some nice, cool artwork with a disc that is in some way related to the win, which may or may not be the putter I was using, because it worked very well last weekend. Other than that, what else is coming? The Simon line will be growing this year, and we're working on my mid-range. So we'll have the 12-speed, my putter, and then we'll have a mid-range.
Okay.
That I probably shouldn't say too much about that. I don't have prototypes yet, so I don't really know what it is going to be like. But
I was just going to say, what do you want it to do? What do you like when you're designing and thinking about the mid-range? What are some of the characteristics and things that you're really looking to accomplish with it?
I want it to be reliable, consistent.
Feel good in the hand.
Holds any line I put it on.
Exactly. The classic catchphrases and Yeah. No, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be okay. Let me say this. It's gonna be. You don't even know MVP molds. It's gonna be like between the reactor and pyro. If that says anything to you.
Damn, yeah. I like it.
Phenomenal disc.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, and then,
good for all, anyone can throw it, from
Any
amateur
arm
to
speed?
beginner, all arm speeds. Great for forehands and backhands. Good for hot weather and cold weather.
Awesome for
aces.
tailwinds or
Great for
headwinds.
aces.
Great for aces and great for birdies too, if you like those. Like, it's, yeah. And Simon approved.
Also phenomenal artwork, of course, and cool name.
Okay.
All those things. I hope I'm also going to get a fairway driver. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year, maybe early next year. Making discs is a shockingly long process. I'm sure you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
But from the first idea to the finished product is many, many months of waiting, trial and error, and kind of production. Anyway, and then we're working on a Simon line apparel as well. That's also kind of taking longer than we wanted, but that's just always how things go, of course. Anything else business related that we're working on? I don't know. I'm Terry. I'm having a baby in 2 days. I don't know what's happening anymore.
Your brain's like baby mush or food. I get it.
Is she sleeping right now? Is your wife sleeping right now? Is she in bed? She should be.
I do not know. When I went to my computer, she was not sleeping.
Okay.
So I'll
My
just
guess would be no.
I'll tell you, I've been keeping this one in my back pocket since January. I'm thinking about, there's a whole line of them. There is a street sign or street signs on the island of Samui, and one of them, a road sign, very much resembles your logo and your branding. And I'm going to be busting that out and putting out. I got Missy Gannon references. I've got some Dutch Napier references. All sorts of stuff I found. But one of them I'm going to be busting out because it's eerily similar to your branding. How much of this stuff is
You
still...
know my logo is based on a traffic sign, right?
No, I don't think I did know that.
Oh, I made a whole video about it. Obviously, you don't watch my YouTube channel. So
No, I
typical.
love it. I'm your 201,000 subscriber.
Yeah, it was like episode 132, Terry. Duh.
Shut up. On a traffic sign out of Thailand?
Germany. Yeah, my logo is based on a German traffic sign.
Oh, okay.
And
Well,
maybe
then
they use it in Thailand too. I don't know.
they must. I'll send you a picture of it, and then I'm going to make a post
Okay.
about it. But anyway, I did not know that. What... how much of all that does this excite you? I mean, you know, there's the golf world, but how much of this development, brand development, excites you still?
It's really exciting. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I accepted this whole switch of brands, was that I had a chance to make my own line of discs and do kind of a rebrand, because I mean, what I was doing with Tasmania was also still exciting and fun, but man, doing something completely new after 10 years of Tasmania, stop, new chapter. You know, we've talked about it enough. It's it just felt like the right time, the right place, and MVP gave me this opportunity, and I was like, that sounds extremely fun. I'm in. Let's go.
I know you're not all too probably hung up on the exact timing of it, but do you have a kind of a timeline of, here's what I'd like to have out by my 4th year or by my 6th year or 8th year? Have you guys planned out that far ahead necessarily, or is this kind of going as quick as things can year by year?
Yeah, or it's kind of going as quick as things can year by year. The first plan was to have the first disc ready by the time of my announcement that I'm joining MVP. That would have been the ideal thing, but that ended up taking about 9 months longer than we planned. So yeah, you know, with production stuff, and it's never as easy as it should be.
What has been maybe the most exciting? I know I asked about most exciting thing in 2024, but what's blown you away the most from the MVP family and diehards and, you know, and supporters and all that stuff. Like, what has shocked you the most, or stuck out at you?
That's such a hard question, man. What has shocked me the most?
Are the fans any more crazy or enthusiastic, or ways people reach out to you, or ideas or collaborations? Like, has anything been like, damn, this is really new territory? Has there been anything like that?
Not really.
Okay.
When can we expect to see, and I'm going to make an assumption that we're going to see an awesome pixel for the MCO back-to-back win, and I think it's going to have Simon with each guitar back-to-back. Yeah, that's the stamp in my brain.
That's
in my brain.
Very 80s.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to see like 80s hair band, like maybe Kiss makeup on him too.
Yeah, exactly.
But when can we expect?
That's a pretty good idea.
Listen,
write it down.
I'm here. MVP. If you do that, I'm here. When can we expect to see it? Because I think I've decided I want to start a small putter collection in my backyard. I want to buy 5 discs from like a bunch of different manufacturers. I've got 5 steady BLs. I've got 5 pures. I think I want to get 5 pixels and throw them in my backyard because I want to have like a putting selection. I want to be able to try a lot of different things. So when can we expect to see these, Simon?
I don't want to say anything wrong right now.
About when? Like estimated time. Like I'm not expecting a date. Is it 3 weeks from now?
It is, as far as I know, it is most likely this week.
Okay. That's good enough. Like if it doesn't happen, if it happens next week, no one's counting. You know, nobody's watching our show. Don't worry.
Well, the thing with a tournament, like a disc that is in honor of a tournament win, it really only hits right if it was recent.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past, we've kind of struggled with that. So this time, we really wanted to make sure that within at least a handful of days, we have something where the fans can be like, yeah, this just happened. Here's the disc. Let's go. Support.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, clearly a better idea than waiting till after somebody wins Champions Cup and all the shine is off of you. And suddenly we're like, oh my God, look who won.
Yeah, the waiting is not always voluntarily. Sometimes
of course.
It's just tough to come up with a couple thousand discs on the spot. Especially the last couple of years for MVP have been pretty insane. So,
if you guys would stop doing amazing things, it would be easier for them.
Yeah, no kidding. Just slow down. Then they can catch up, right?
I mean, the good thing is, as you're stepping off the stage, Eagle's stepping right on. Like, hello, Champions Cup. Like, you know, MVP's not missing a beat.
I was so excited to see Eagle last week and watch him play with the new discs. And obviously, he was more than excited as well. He's been waiting on that moment for many months now at this point. So it was a huge bummer. We actually stayed together in an Airbnb, and we both had back pain, and we were just laying on the couch like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, I tried playing a practice round, and I got through 8 holes and then walked off the course because I was like, I can't throw. But then with the tournament adrenaline, I like got myself to the course, did some warm-ups with Seth, and it ended up working out. And Eagle was just like, because I knew after this I'm taking a long break, and for Eagle was no, after this I'm starting my tour. So he chose to drop out. I chose to play. And then we obviously saw what happened to my game. It was absolutely unexplainable and weird, but awesome, very fun, and I'm really excited to see Eagle play on Thursday. I'll have about a 5-hour-old baby, and I'll be watching Disc Golf Network.
Yeah, make sure to bring an iPad for the hospital room because they probably don't stream.
I really hope he's on some featured card. I really want.
Oh, he's gonna be. I guarantee it. I could probably look right now. I'm sure I've got the rundown in my email from Mo. I guarantee you, if it's his first event, they are going to highlight him and put the pressure on him. I do have actually surprisingly a question about MCO. As much as we've danced around the whole tournament, what do you equate a lot of people, I guess, are calling it the throwback lead card? Paul, Simon, Ricky, and none of you guys are washed up by any means, but everyone's calling you the old guard. You've got AB, you've got Gannon, you've got these young guns. Why was the MCO a a flashback to 2017. Was it the course? Was it just all the stars aligning? What happened?
It's funny. I've listened to a couple podcasts since then, and obviously the commentary and stuff. And I think I've heard flashback to like 5 different years at this point on when this flashback is to. 17, I like that one though. I was wondering why. Why this course? Doesn't really make sense to me because it seems like it was such a thrower's course.
Mhm.
The wind was relatively down. Final round was a bit breezy, but it really, I don't know what freaking zone I was in or why it felt so easy to me, but for me it felt like every hole was just like you throw a pretty simple shot to the landing zone. The fairways were really large for our standards, and then you throw a big hyzer to the basket. Like that felt like most of the par fours were like that. So I was very confused. I knew I played really well round 1, but after that I was just kind of cruising, and everyone else just kind of struggled. I couldn't really explain why. It didn't really make sense.
AB last week on our show called this a placement course. He's like, you have to hit your placement, and then you go from there. And I was thinking, based on what he had said, I wonder if that's why. I wonder if you and Paul and Ricky just understand the limits, so to speak, of what you want to do, and you're not trying to push hard. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if you told me AB and Gannon were trying to get 50 feet further than you guys. I don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't shock me, as opposed to just saying, I'm going to take this. Because Paul didn't look like he had his best backhand. His forehand looked amazing.
The problem was that there was nothing really to gain with distance on this course. Like every hole, you could throw basically a putter or a mid off the tee and have just as good as a birdie chance as if you go kind of risky or a more powered driver off the tee. And that's what I did. I think I threw on like a third of the hole. I just threw a mid. Great. That's it. That's all you had to do. And then you had left like 350, 400-foot hyzer. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed the course. We also have to say that the wind was basically best case scenario. Like if it came like from the perfect direction to kind of help on every hole. Like every hole where you like needed a bit of a helping wind, that wind was there to help. I think if the wind was a different direction, this course would have played completely different.
Yeah, I think about the group that you guys had, and to me, if you guys were playing an older course that took we'll say a Maple Hill, where some people just kind of know how to navigate around it and there's nuances to it. I don't know that was the case out there. Like you just said, it was, you had to just throw a couple controlled shots. Maybe it was just the time. I feel like the stars just aligned to kind of answer your question. It just kind of seemed like that's the way it was. How did you feel about the group? Did you even think at all about who you were surrounded by and who was doing well that weekend, or could you just take? Did it matter what
I would say? Did it make you more comfortable on that final round to have your? I don't want to say your buddies, but the guys you've been playing with for 8-10 years on the card with you.
In a sense, yes. Not really because they're my buddies, but more like having Chris and Paul on the card gave me some sense of feeling like they're not really the players that are shooting super hot this year. So I guess it gave me a bit of confidence that it didn't seem super likely that they were just going to go off because that's just what they're doing that year. I was pretty worried about Gannon, but Gannon very early in the round got a bit unlucky and missed basically every putt. So I think within like 3 or 4 holes, I had like an 8-stroke lead over Gannon. So that whole dynamic changed pretty quick. And I mean, if things are going your way on disc golf courses, then things are just going your way. Yeah, We've seen it so many times. Actually, this route specifically, I was actually wondering if I'm going to make a YouTube video about this, because there were a handful of shots where I threw a very similar shot to Paul or Chris or Gannon, but I got the good break and they got the bad break. That happened multiple times in the front nine. And it just goes to show it's literally a game of inches. You can throw the same shot twice and get crazy different results, or sometimes even just a couple feet results. But a couple feet can make a big difference, especially if you're 25 or 35 feet from the basket.
It didn't hurt that you were hitting every putt as well, and even putts you shouldn't be hitting were going in, as opposed to like when we watched Paul drain flat. I mean, I don't call spit putts very often because I think that in general, usually if a putt comes out, it probably wasn't ideal. But there was like a 60-footer Paul hit, and just it spit right back out at him. You could see it hit the pole. It came back, and then you throw one from your knee to the right side, barely catches chain, kind of balances on the edge, and then circles in, and you could see it on your face. You almost looked guilty, like, I got away with one.
Yeah, when that spit out on hole 11 that Paul had from 60 feet, like when that happened, that was the moment where I was certain that I was going to win. I mean, I should have been certain earlier because I should have that confidence that I'm going to protect a 6 or 7 stroke lead. But at that point, I was just like, wow, the disc golf gods really want me to win today. Like, I already felt like they wanted me to win, but that smack in the face, I was like, wow, that's like, it can't get any more obvious than that.
Yeah, and then, it was so great to see you and Kristen defend your titles. We obviously don't, it's so tough to win, and you're both great players, so it's not crazy that it happens, but for all the stars to align, for both of you to do it on the weekend, you just said that you like the course. It's relatively new to our tour, relatively, compared to some of the, the originals. Would you be okay with changing it out, either for another course in the area or being in a different area or going to another event?
Yeah, I think it should be changed. I think that the property itself is actually not good for disc golf at all. Like, if you would just see that property, you wouldn't ever think, oh yeah, let's put a disc golf course here. Because it has very few trees, and the trees that it has are all kind of like bunched together in like bushy areas. And that's really not what disc golf needs or wants. We want like spread out trees that are like singled here and there where you can like shape shots around. So I think what they did on that, for the property they did very well to make an interesting and fun course. But I think that's about as good as it'll get there. And I think disc golf should and can do better in different places.
When I'm thinking about courses and thinking about this upcoming weekend, it's been very much determined. It's 14 holes of Northwood Black, 4 holes of the old Northwood Gold, which we saw in 2019 World. So we're going to call it Northwood Park this weekend. Just for everyone out there, when you're confused as to what it's being referenced as, we're calling it Northwood Park because it is technically a hybrid of these courses. You should call it
Northwood Platinum. Just come up with your own name. Yeah. Just, it's not black, it's not gold, it's not like, just come up with
the diamond version now.
Aluminum.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
call it Northwood Aluminum.
Anyway, so that's what's happening this weekend. You're not playing, so all bets are off, but what are you looking forward to seeing when you can spend time watching? What will get you most excited about this weekend's action? Boom or scores or strategy or whatever.
Terry, I just like watching disc golf.
Oh,
I don't look for
you're too chicken. So you're no. You're too chicken to call out a favorite or make any predictions. And this is your cop out.
Does it make you feel silly, or not make you feel silly? But do you look at it like kind of some of us do? Like, yeah, well, of course Paul's getting warmed up. The major is next week. Like that. Just it seems all too obvious. Like such a like. I've been saying the term Disney storyline for the last couple of weeks. Like. Guess what? Knock, knock, knock. Here comes the major. Paul's warming up.
All right. Come on. Take a stand here. What are you going to see? What are we going to see?
Oh, disc golf is so unpredictable, man. How should I predict this? Also, I haven't thought about this yet. It's 2 days away from the tournament. You already think about this now?
Well, we have to. Our podcast is tonight.
Oh, that's right. Well...
Look at previous ledge
don't-
stones. Start there. Look at previous ledge stones of which you've won. But start there. Use that maybe even to warm up your brain.
Do you think previous ledge stones are going to be an accurate indication on who might win this tournament?
Cole Radalin played 2 great rounds out there.
Ricky
last
Wysocki
year.
does. He
Ricky
plays.
I played
Wysocki.
with Cole. I played with Cole that round where he shredded, and it was some of the best disc golf I've ever watched in my life. It was absolutely mind-blowing how he threw that disc. Perfect on every hole. Let me think one sec. I'm going to say I don't think a Discraft player is going to win.
Okay. That's
going to be my
bold,
first idea
random-
that I just came up with.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay,
that was unexpected.
That eliminates a lot of favorites right off the bat.
Okay. What about a guy in the hunt for his first major but's not throwing forehands right now? And I'm talking about Calvin Heimberg. Well, yeah, Calvin Heimberg fits that description.
I do not see Calvin on that track without a forehand winning his first major. That
Because
wouldn't really
scrambling
be-
so required or something else?
Yeah, scrambling and just a lot of tee shots out there really open up if you have a forehand you can rely on.
Do you think we're going to see
You
a
just know that a lot
first-time
of the
major
top guys
winner?
have that.
Do you think we're going to see a first-time major winner? I guess
Ooh.
that's where I'll leave it. Like we've obviously there are people who have won majors and there are people who have not. Do you think we're going to get a first-timer?
I don't think we're going to get a first timer.
Okay, that's all. That's all right. That's
I mean, if we keep whittling this down
we'll eventually narrow it down
to
yeah.
Isaac Robinson is who you're no, he's not a first time winner. Yeah, he's not. So
yeah,
that he'd
so
fit.
that would be
But then he has a forehand that's say greater than like a James Conrad, but he doesn't go to it often.
To be fair, we haven't designated MPO or FPO, so no. Either way, he's going to win. He's going to be like, "Oh, look, I told you. Look, it's Kristen Tatar."
Okay.
I think I'm going to say Missy Gannon's going to win. I think historically she's done very well there.
After you just told me that doesn't matter, but okay.
I didn't say that. I just asked you if you think it matters. And you just took off a week, right? So she's probably fresh and ready.
Her, Owen
So-
Scoggins. I saw Owen at the course. Owen skipped playing as well, as did Missy Gannon, as did another top FPO player that escapes me right now. Paige didn't play this last weekend either. There's another one yet. Yeah, I mean...
It would probably make me happiest if Owen won.
Okay.
I would be a huge fan of watching that. I think I'm going to say Missy's going to win. I'm just saying that to not say Kristen's going to win because, I don't know, I feel like saying that the by far big favorite is going to win is so boring. Yeah, my favorite would be Owen to win, but I think Missy's going to win. Just saying because I actually think Kristen's probably going to win. And then MPO, I'm going to give it to... You want me to say one name? Is that how this game works?
No, you don't have to. I'm not
You don't
trying
even
to.
have to say
I said,
a
what are
name.
you looking forward to? That was my original question. I don't need a hot take of like calling someone out as for sure winning. I'm just like, what are you looking forward to in the competition or the scores or the
course or the
strategy,
weather?
Last time Eagle McMahon took 2 months off due to injury, he came back. His first event was the European Open, and he won it. So factor that in if you want here. Whatever you want. That's what I'm going for. It's just the stories, the things you're thinking about or would think about.
Well, what brings me the most joy when I watch sports, it's when it's a really close competition. And I get nervous for the people who are out there because I know all of them, of course, and I'm trying to imagine how I would feel if I was in this situation, which is so weird. I get more nervous sometimes watching others compete for the win than I get when I'm there myself competing for the win. Like sometimes when I'm watching them and they hit like a crazy clutch putt in like a key moment, I'm like, how the hell did he do that? It's like an insane putt. But then when I'm in the moment, I don't even really think about it that much. I just step up and do it because you're like in the moment, you're just there doing it. But when you're watching it, you're like, it's so different living it through watching it versus actually being there and doing it. So yeah, I hope for a really tight competition, multiple people in contention, and seeing Eagle do well would obviously be really exciting.
Yeah,
Final
I mean,
answer.
what a storyline! Not just the injury and coming back from it, but the whole MVP component of back-to-back weekends, you taking off, you going on maternity leave, for lack of a better term, you taking off
paternity leave.
Yeah, paternity. Thanks. In that case, and then Eagle just sliding right in. Like, yeah, that would make a heck of a story over at
passing the baton
over at MVP. That's for sure.
It would be another insane story.
They'd be like, they'd call Simon up, like, remember those pixels we were gonna print? I'm sorry, those machines are very busy right now with an Eagle win.
I'd love to see it.
Every contract is different. Do you personally benefit from a celebratory disc, a commemorative disc being made? Does your checkbook benefit from those coming out? Your bank account.
What kind of question is that? Of course.
Okay. Because I don't feel like sometimes it doesn't, whether it's a threshold of things you haven't sold yet, or you got to get somewhere, or if you do or don't win them. Like, I feel like everybody's bonus structure is a little different, and that's why I wondered if you personally benefited if they release 5,000 more pixels tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if, like, your contract will just say $1 million, and MVP says, "Cool, you won. We're going to print these Simon discs, and we're going to make some of that million back, buddy." And you're not seeing any of that. Like, that wouldn't be shocking.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big deal. Like, you got guaranteed money. Not everybody else has the guaranteed money you do. You know this, right?
Let's make him feel as uncomfortable about his money as we can.
Jerry, nothing in life is guaranteed.
I think your checks are right now. I think your checks are.
And
if
you don't believe me, forward some my way.
I'll just take 1 month. It's okay. I'll just take 1 month. You're not going to miss that. Let me be your translator, like like Otani, and we'll see how your money works.
That was a question on the board, and we're going to let you go here soon. But one of the other topics within disc golf that's come up in the last few weeks, we talked about it briefly last week, was just the whole idea of the U.S. integrity coming along and getting into the precursor to the idea of us getting more serious about betting within disc golf and gambling. Do you, as a guy that, I'll leave it there. How do you feel about that?
You enjoy Vegas, huh?
I do enjoy Vegas, and the only sports bet I've ever made in my entire life was when I was like 19 or 20 years old, and it was on a horse. And I knew nothing about that horse. I just liked its name. It was like something teapot. Horse names are the greatest names I've ever heard. It's unbelievable.
Only second to them are boat names, but yes, go on. I agree.
Okay. So my horse, Flying Mermaid, or whatever it was called, I knew nothing about the horse. I knew nothing about horse racing. I didn't look at the odds or anything. That was also my first ever horse race I went to. Mm-hmm. I just liked the name. I bet on it, like $50, and I won like $400 because the horse won. I was like, cool. I'm done sports betting for the rest of my life, and that's about my sports betting story. I've never placed any other bets in sports ever, nor am I interested to ever.
So
I'm lucky, Terry. I'm not addicted to gambling.
No, because I could see how you could be with like a little bit of the fun and the luck, but then also the competitive, but yet fun-loving nature you have. Like all of that's sometimes mixed with a drink or two. Like all of that can make for a really wild concoction for sure.
Yeah, I think in Vegas I always do so poorly when I go out and play that I just kind of lost the thrill after a couple of years of just losing hundreds of dollars here and there. And it's just something I can see how easily it could become addicting and you can like ruin your life. with gambling. So I just made the decision that I'm not even going to bother to think about it anymore because I'm not into it.
Now, let me remind everyone, a few months ago, Simon and I, we met up. It was my birthday. And after I had made back the initial investment on the evening, and I was up a little, I wanted to quit and walk away ahead. And Simon was giving me a hard time about not continuing the attempts to
You're on a hot streak, buddy. Why quit now?
He gave me a hard time.
What were we doing? Where?
We were at it was my birthday, and we were at in Peoria at the boat.
The boat. Yeah.
And we started out, and eventually I got ahead, and you did not like the idea of me just quitting while I was ahead a few $100.
Well, much like him watching disc golf, he probably gets much more fun out of watching you gamble, and he gets more nervous. He's like, "Oh, is Terry gonna double down here? Good."
Anyway, so it one of the rare times you can walk out ahead, and like you said though, having that discipline is the most difficult thing about all of gambling.
So, do you think betting in disc golf is gonna be good for us?
I don't know. I know nothing about the sports betting world at all. Okay. I just hope there won't ever be like some betting scandal, which I've heard happens in sports where betting is allowed.
100% there will be.
And that's going to be a sad day for disc golf when that's going to hit the news that someone missed a putt on purpose to win a bet.
Yeah.
You think that's going to happen for sure?
Yeah, 100%. Like it happens in every single sport. It's just it might not happen the first 5 years. It might not happen the first 7 years, but it will happen at some point. Somebody will get caught somehow doing something to improve a bet. Whether they're again, it could be something like, hey, they owe money to somebody, and now that's how they're going to pay off their debt. It could just be that they have some side bets going on, like, oh, hey, I'm going to take third this week if I have the opportunity, or I'm definitely going to take under top 10, a favorite who thinks that, everyone's betting on him to do well. Maybe they don't do so well this weekend and they get some money on the side for that. It will 100% happen. I don't think it's going to be crazy. Like, I don't personally think it's going to like infect our sport, but it will happen. There will be someone. It's the nature of sports betting.
Come on, we all know a few of the shysters already on the course, so somebody's gonna get bought out. This is really random, but now you and Natalia, your family, going through your her second pregnancy. You guys as a family, anything you want to weigh in on? Macy Veladiaz, Katrina Allen out there grinding out golf like DGPT events as far along as they are. Do you have to? Are you in awe of that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I've never been pregnant, so I don't really know what it feels like. But I talked to Austin, who is Katrina's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that Katrina feels great. She feels like she wouldn't even know she was pregnant if it wasn't for the obvious pregnancy signs. Feeling-wise, she says she's not tired and she's feeling fine and she's sleeping good, eating normal. So, I mean, like, as long as you're not doing any harm to yourself or the baby, then go for it. Why not?
What I mean by all of that setup is I'm so impressed. I think it's incredible that they're this far along, that both of them are, and as we just pulled it up, Katrina finished in 8th, and Macy this weekend finished in 14th, and I just hats off, kudos. Like it's just so impressive to see them out there.
Yeah, I agree. Kudos to anyone who's out there, and with a pregnancy, double kudos. I mean, every pregnancy is different. This is our second one, and it was so unbelievably different than the first one. The first one was like a walk in the park, and this one has been absolutely misery. And it sounds like they probably have one that is, for now, more manageable, and enjoy.
Excuse me if this has been asked before, but are there plans to extend the family more after this? Do you plan on another child, a third?
How many are going to pop out?
Or fifth?
Yeah.
No, I am extremely certain that I will have 2 kids, and that's all.
Oh God, I have so many questions I want to ask now, like personal questions, like
I've always wanted 2 kids.
Yeah.
And after the first kid, we debated if 1 is maybe enough because it was such a handful. But then we decided that having 2 kids is probably long term the better decision for our first kid and for us. So, yeah, hopefully this kid is happy and healthy, like our first one, and then I'm done.
How? I'm sorry, I have to ask. How done are you? You going to get that thing officially done?
Very, very. I'll be officially done.
Okay. Are you? This is such a hard question to answer. No, it's not a personal. But like, are you happy that you're going to have a boy and a girl? Like, I know some families.
So stoked.
Okay, cool. Like, I assume it's so hard to ask that because now that you're having a girl, so it's like, how can you? You don't want her to come back in like 20 years and look like, I watched this interview, Dad. You really wanted a boy or something? Like, I know some families. We have some friends who had 2 boys, and she was ecstatic. She wanted 2 boys. She's like, I have all the stuff. I've got the hand-me-down clothes. It's so much easier. Boys are easier than girls up to a certain point. Blah blah blah. But I love a boy and a girl. I've got the same thing.
Yeah, I know. But here's something I didn't realize before I became a parent. The thing with having a kid is that you are happy with what you have and what you get. And it really, like, this is the full honesty, it doesn't matter. Like, if I had a boy now, I would be so thrilled to have 2 boys. And if I have a boy and a girl, now I'm so thrilled that I have a boy and a girl. Like, the outcome literally did not matter. I don't even think if I had to choose one that I would have preferred, I couldn't really give an honest answer. Like, it just... With kids, I think it might be the only thing in life where you just really don't prefer something. It's just you're happy with what you have because that's how it is, and either one is as good as the other.
I just think of someone like Terry with 2 girls. He will never experience having a little boy. Like, there's something different, or for his,
it's not over yet, Terry.
Yes, it is.
Actually, yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
I mean, there's different experiences, obviously, with boys and girls. You know, if you had 2 boys, would your wife be like, oh, would she be missing out on a little something from not having a little girl? Things like that. Like, there's a lot to think about. Obviously, everybody wants a small, happy, healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes child. Like, that's the dream. Just, it doesn't matter as long as they're healthy. But I didn't know if there was a preference for the family. Like, we really kind of wanted one of each, but we're happy that we have 2 healthy kids. I didn't know. And I know it's a personal question. It's hard to answer.
Well, before my son was born, I really wanted a daughter. And I was really, looking back now, kind of falsely hoping that it was going to be a girl, the first one. But then when we found out it was a boy, I realized that my hopes were not based on reality and that I was just as happy with a boy. And now looking back, I'm actually really happy that it was a boy and not a girl.
Okay.
And I think that's just how it works. I think that's just how it works.
Big brothers are cool, to be honest. Big brothers are cool.
Another thing along with your family and your planning and just life was the consideration about relocating. Where does that now stand? Is that in terms of fast forwarding or being slowed down or whatever? Where do you stand with that?
Yeah, it's really sad to leave a place just based on the weather. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at because everything else in Massachusetts I like. There's so many great things up here that I really don't want to give up. But the weather is so bad. Oh my God. The winters are so long and just so brutal. Like, now it's starting to be nice out, but literally 2 weeks ago we had a snowstorm in April, and it's just like, and the crappy weather starts like in November. And then you have 5 to 6 months of just windy, rainy, slushy, cold, wind, snow. It's just like, ugh. And it never stops. It feels like it never stops. And then after like the fourth month of it, you're just like depressed that you can't go outside. Your child wants to go run outside, but it's freaking slushy out. And like everything's wet and gross. And you just can't play disc golf outside. It's like, it just ruins the whole vibe. And it's just the weather, but it seems like it's such a big role, at least for my career, is to have decent weather. But then if you go somewhere else, then we lose all the good things that are here. Like I've said this in a couple podcasts, but if you Google best state to raise a family in the US, it's number one is Massachusetts for multiple reasons. And it just feels weird to leave the number one place to raise a family in America.
Yeah, but understandable with, again, your career and the things that you need to be most successful. And I can understand how that all weighs heavily on you, especially when it comes to the weather. And it's funny, the question came in on the board exactly as I was thinking it. How do you compare Germany weather and where you lived and where you grew up compared to what you're experiencing right now? How similar or different are they?
It's pretty similar. I would say the summers are a bit nicer and warmer here, and the winters are a bit crappier and colder here. So here it's a bit more extreme in both directions. Where I grew up was very, very mild in both directions. We'll have snow in Germany, at least where I lived, like every other year, maybe like one proper snow day where the snow actually sticks for a couple of weeks. And in Massachusetts, it seems to be that happens multiple times every year. And Wisconsin is probably even worse.
You've been here, when you visited, one of the times you visited, it certainly was not our most pleasant of times, that's for sure. So yeah,
sledding with the kids is fun though. That's always.
It is so fun. I love winter. I'm someone who loves winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Trust me, I enjoy snow. I love skiing, sledding, even just walking outside through a snowy forest is awesome. Like I really enjoy it. I like the cold too. I like cold more than I like warm or hot, which is a big reason I'm like really struggling to imagine me moving to Florida, for example, where the summers are just brutal.
Yeah. I mean, but in theory, you're traveling in the summers, right? Like that's
but then I still have
to come home to that.
3 people soon, and 3 people who are dealing with what I'm not dealing with.
True. Any other projects that are clearly? I know your life is about to get even more wild here in literally in a matter of hours. But any other bigger projects that are outside of MVP? I think of course design. Productions, videos, anything else that's kind of big, or is that a lot of that stuff currently put on hold?
Basically, everything's been put on hold. There's a course that Casey and I designed here about 20 minutes south of Maple Hill. It's a really, really cool property, and the design is basically done, and I think they're ordering baskets this or next week. And that's like my first proper disc golf design that I've ever done, at least without the help of an actual course designer like Avery Jenkins, for example. Mm-hmm. So that's an exciting project that will hopefully open up maybe late spring, early summer.
What should people expect from that course when they go out there? What are you envisioning people going? What's their experience? Should it be like?
For me, and all the things that disc golf should be, fun is very high up, and it's above challenge. So people can expect something. If you're above 960 rated, something extremely fun and scoreable, and anything around 960 and below, it's going to be a good challenge to score under par, with a good mix of woods and and distance and open and shot shapes. We've really, with all the experience we have and knowledge that we have, We actually started this design the week after we were at the John Houck conference that he held at Maple Hill, where we learned so much about all the tips and tricks of course design and the things you got to keep in mind with safety and what is a good shot versus not a good shot, what's a good hole, not a good hole, and even like the order of holes and pars you want to have ideally. You know, John Houck has spent years and years now on thinking about what's the ultimate way to design a disc golf course. So yeah, I spent many hours walking that property, and I had a full 18 holes laid out actually after one day, because the property is so sick you can do anything and it would be pretty good. And of that first layout, basically nothing stayed the same.
Wow.
We switched the whole thing around multiple times just to make sure that it's right, and just kept questioning each other's ideas and hole designs, and we walked that property up and down, back and forth so many times, just to make sure we get it right, because it was such a good property that you could have really like played it anyway and it would have been good, but we wanted it to be the best.
Well, I let me just say, with obviously not seeing it, and I'm excited about it, but hats off to you guys, because it's so easy to go out to a property to see what you think are obvious lines and obvious greens and tees and all that stuff, and then to be able to shift your mind into, wait a minute, let's wipe the slate clean, or let's get rid of these 4 holes because we should actually play them backwards and only put in 2 in the same spot. Like all of that, being able to do that in your mind and while working with someone else is very difficult. And so that's,
it was difficult.
Kudos. Yeah.
It was very difficult. I was actually shocked on how difficult it was, because when I first saw the property and walked it for the first time, I was like, I thought it's going to be easy. I thought this was going to be the easiest first design ever. I thought everything will just fall into place. I thought there couldn't be a bad hole out there, so I thought it didn't really matter what you would do because it would be great. But boy, was I wrong. And boy, did I have a lot of headaches sitting over my little sheet of holes where I had the layout, and I just kept Xing stuff out and rerouting holes and then switching it completely around and starting to play holes backwards. And it's God, if both options are good, but you have to choose one, man, I didn't like to make all those decisions, and because I felt like it was such a big responsibility to get it right.
Well, I know exactly what you mean, and I think it's awesome that you had that project, and I know it gives you even more appreciation for all of the courses and all the course designers that are out there and what they've done in order to provide us all with so much joy, and then for you to be at kind of the forefront of that experience as well is just incredibly fulfilling. So it's awesome that you had that some of those revelations and that experience. All right, buddy. We know we could talk to you for 8 more hours. The world would love it. We'd love it, but we know how important your time is. So
sleep
and sleep and all of that.
Get the sleep over the next day or two.
So
10:40 already. Oh my God.
Yeah. Any final shout outs, thanks, words, recognitions, anything you want to throw out in the world in any direction, the world would love to hear it. What do you got for us?
Oh, another one. Why not just thank everyone?
Okay. Another easy cop out. I like it.
Cop out? I don't. Okay, let me try again.
You choose to hang out with Terry, right? Like we both do. I do as well sometimes. You do. It's not easy.
No,
Terry's a favorite.
If that's how you feel, that's fair. If that's how you feel, yes, absolutely. I just didn't know if you had like sponsors or a caddy that you forgot late or anything else. That's all.
What are we going to see over the next 2 months from you? Honestly, like what's like, are we going to see any videos? Are we going to see family videos? Like, now that you're not disc golfing, what is the plan before you kind of, go on a little vacation from disc golf?
yeah, I have some hopes that I can turn off my phone and you will hear nothing from me in the next
Great.
2 months.
That's awesome.
That would be probably the best case scenario for me. I'm probably not going to manage to do that. But we'll see. It really all depends. Literally, I've made absolutely zero plans for after Thursday because you just don't know how a newborn is going to do. And I just didn't want to have anything planned or even think about what's going to happen afterwards. It's just going to be time with the baby and just hopefully everything goes well. And after that, who knows? Maybe it's going to be a super easy, healthy baby, and then I can do videos, I can practice, I can maybe play local tournaments, I can maybe do work on business stuff. But if there's any issues, then I can do none of that. And I don't know.
Well, we're all wishing for a very healthy, and I think sleepy baby. Everyone likes a sleepy baby. Like let him sleep most, like get 4 or 5 hours that first couple nights, and God, that's the best.
It would be very nice because our first one was the exact opposite.
My son was up every few hours. My daughter, she was so sleepy. It was like all the time. It didn't matter. She'd sleep for 4 to 5 hours at a knock, wake up for an hour or two, then go back to bed for 4 hours. So I wish nothing but that for every father and mother.
All right, buddy.
We'll see what happens. I'll let you know.
Yeah, we wish you and Natalia, the whole family, everyone the best and happy, healthy, all that good stuff, and hopefully as smooth as childbearing and parenting can possibly go for you. We wish nothing but that for you. So thank you so much. We know you're pulled in a million directions. We know there's all sorts of podcasts and media requests, and we very much, and I know all the Smashies and us personally just very much appreciate getting a couple hours of your time here tonight. It's awesome to see you take down another victory, and great to share all this other stuff that's not even victory related. We
barely touched on the victory, which I'm okay with.
It doesn't
We
matter.
barely touched on Nashville. That was quite impressive.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Everybody watched it. Everybody
I
watched
agree.
it. You stomped through the
agree.
course.
No,
Way to go.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. We love you guys, and nothing but the best. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we talk to you soon. And we're looking forward to those pictures in a few days of a nice, happy, and healthy delivery. So thank you, buddy.
That'd be best case scenario, guys. Thank you
Love
so
it.
much,
All right.
and I'll see you guys. You'll be the coverage guy, Terry, right?
I'm
Next
in the
week?
booth. I'm in the booth this weekend in Bend with
Oh, in
Nate
the
and
booth.
Nate. So yes.
All right, I'll send you the first picture of the baby when you're talking about disc golf.
If you're good with me announcing it, and if you haven't, yes, we're all for it.
You know, Mo's going to ask you for that picture immediately so
We
he can
love
put
you,
it on the
buddy.
broadcast.
All right, have a good night. See ya.
Good night, Simon.
All right, good night, guys. Bye.
Simon Lizotte. I think he won a tournament.
Something like that. I heard he putted well, and he scored better than some other people.
Good job.
Way to go,
All right,
MCO.
we'll quickly read off our other top 10 MPO competitors. All the people Simon beat.
All the people Simon beat.
The next 9 he beat.
Okay, we'll go with just the next. Not all of them?
Not all of them.
I mean, all right.
Just the next 9.
In second place, Paul Macbeth, who, as we said, his to me, his backhand looked good. His forehand looked great.
Okay.
His putting was decent. So second place, Paul Macbeth. Third place, tie between Richard Wysocki and Chris Dickerson. Fifth place, Jeremy Coling. Did you see the video of Jeremy on the very last hole?
Made a big putt, right?
He checked the phone to find out where he was at, and knowing that he could run at it and not have to worry about taking about falling back, so to speak, and that he only had an option to move up, he drained a huge putt. It was really cool to see.
Attaboy, Jeremy.
Jeremy Coling tied with Nicholas Antala in fifth place. Big tie for seventh between Anthony Barella, Silas Schultz, who's not a name that we've seen up in the top 10 recently, so congratulations, Silas. Same with Ty Love. Congratulations, Ty. And Gannon Burr. Gannon had a rough final round. It wasn't pretty. I would say one solid spit putt that maybe should have gone in, and then a lot of side putts that maybe could have stuck but didn't, and he wasn't himself that round.
Did he throw up his hands at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He gave a typical Ganon, like, what's going on kind of reaction. Even when I think, like, he tickled some links and he's like, come on. I don't know how serious he was, but ultimately, Ganon still takes a top 10 finish. So congratulations, Ganon Burr. That is your top 10 in the MPO field. Honestly, the MCO course, I don't find it very memorable. There are probably 3 holes that you think of like, oh, that's a hole that I can, that is definitely, that's an MCO hole. Like there's a few of them out there, but in general, I thought the course played very well. I thought it played very smoothly. So let's talk about FPO. We're going over to first place, Kristen Tatar. Second place, Holland Hanley. Holland, who unfortunately, obviously, was tied going into the final round with Kristen, but just absolutely kind of melted that final round. It wasn't fun to watch. She shot a 1 over par and just kind of. You can never say you gave the win to Kristen because she takes the win, hands down. But Holland definitely opened the door to let Kristen Tatar walk through it. Third place, Henna Blomroos is coming off of an ankle injury, shows up. No one was really talking much about her until the final round when she shot a really, really good 4 under par to get herself right up into that place. She was kind of mentioned a little bit throughout the broadcast throughout days 1 and 2, but it was more like, oh, look, Henna's doing this, Henna's doing that, but not really in contention. But ultimately, a really good final round to get her into third place. So it's really nice to see Henna. Tie for fourth place between Ella Hansen and Haley King. Sixth place, a tie between Evelina Salonen and Kat Murch. Eighth place, Katrina Allen. Ninth place, Silva Sarnen, who just an absolute meltdown final round. Felt bad. It's like she didn't want to be there. Yeah. It was really, everything went against her. Every bad roll you could imagine, every bad shot she threw, just nothing worked out. It didn't feel like she got any breaks that final round.
Yeah.
And it looked like it on her face. Like you could see it was just like, get me out of here, get me to the next course.
Yeah, and I think a testament to that, obviously we see that she had no birdies during the final round, but just a testament it is she shot +9 on the final round. The previous 2 days combined, 2 under par. Mm-hmm. And like if you didn't watch a minute of coverage, that alone jumps off a page at you as like, yeah, things clearly weren't the same as they were the prior 2 days. To go 2 under for the first 36 holes, but then to shoot 9 over in the last 18 holes. So
it's hard to say if it was lead card pressure. I mean, she's young. It wouldn't shock me if she was a little stressed from just the attention. She seems a little bit more of right now a shy individual based on some of the interviews she's given,
and just a whole international.
A lot of it. There's a lot of things that can pile up, and ultimately it looked like it kind of crushed her on the final round. And in 10th place, a name we have been mentioning quite a bit this season, Rebecca Cox gets another finish, top 10 finish. 10, so congratulations, awesome. Rebecca Cox.
All right, and down just a couple of spots lower, we're going to give her the shout out. Jessica Weiss, tied for 11th, but is celebrating a birthday today.
Shout out. Happy birthday,
specifically Jessica Weiss. I think for her birthday present, she doesn't love it, but it was required, a little dental work that she has actually she's been struggling with mightily in terms of pain over the last few weeks. I've seen multiple posts about it. I think it was either today or yesterday. Specifically, she had some significant dental work done. So we wish her the best.
Yeah, get it. Trust me, get it done and just be done with it.
Yeah, and so I think I saw that post just today. She made it sound like they were maybe still in Tennessee and then en route to get up to the Peoria area to get prepped for this weekend. So happy birthday to her. Also, happy birthday, I think I saw pop up. I know he listens from time to time. One Chris Sprague. So happy birthday to Chris Sprague over there in the Iowa Quad Cities.
Happy birthday,
area.
Chris. So. The other big story this weekend was clearly round 2, the delay in the event. I think we kind of have to talk about it. There was a threat made. Specifically, I believe the story is it was a threat made against Natalie Ryan, as well as I think it was maybe sent to Natalie Ryan, but I think it was a threat against her and including spectators and the crew from the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And
the entire event.
It was basically the event. Yeah. And from what I've read, the Pro Tour handled it very well. They requested additional they notified the local authorities, requested additional support, and apparently that support didn't get there in time before Natalie was teeing off. So at that point, they held the event. Eventually, the local authorities showed up. They had someone walk along with that card. My understanding is there were even some bag checks going on for spectators and things, but it ultimately delayed the event by about 90 minutes. And so, no surprise, we here at SmashBoxx do not condone any sort of that, anything like that. I can't understand the concept of why anyone would even, like, what the reasoning would even be. Like, I understand, or what you're trying to accomplish with that. Like, it's just not, there's nothing, it's a whole foreign concept in my head on it. Like, if you disagree with how things are going, that is the answer. Of all things, like there are so many different ways I think to be handled if you disagree, and that to me is beyond the pale. And it's so unfathomable to me.
Yeah, and to your point, it serves no one any good.
Exactly.
Whether you are for or against the idea of where our policies stand in terms of transgender participation. Having a threat of that nature, first of all, is of course crazy and all of that. But then, just who do you think that would benefit by calling in or participating or being part of that threat? Because you're in essence you're punishing everyone, and there's just I get it. I don't get it as I can say it. All I'm going to say on it to wrap that up also is. There, of course, are, we'll say, conflicting reports/theories. You've heard both, you've read both as to whether people, how they want to interpret what has been reported as to if it was specific to a transgender conversation or if it was to the event. Everyone you guys can, I'm just going to say this, you guys can all continue to fight about however you want to perceive it. At the end of the day, any threat of violence toward either an entire group being the event or to an individual, either one doesn't make sense from a practicality standpoint. I just know that, unfortunately, this is already taking a side narrative to like a whole nother discussion. It's just not, everyone can continue to fight about it. I'm not going to participate in that rhetoric and fighting about who it was or wasn't directed at, and what, at the end of the day, the entire point is it shouldn't have happened, period.
I do want to reiterate something Natalie said, and go out and read her Instagram post where she just thanks the Pro Tour, local authorities, the staff, just everybody on how it was handled and how serious it was taken, which obviously we think that it has to be. So go out and check out Natalie's post on, I believe it was Instagram, about how it was handled and how happy she was how it was handled. So I think that is a big feather in the cap of just the locals and the Pro Tour for this type of incident, which you just obviously always hope that you never have to deal with something like this. But there's always something different that we have to deal with.
Well, and I think of Felix from Ace Run Pro. I saw a post from him just saying, because he was, I believe, on the catch cam coverage during that round, and like, just who would have ever thought that would be a situation that any of us would have to deal with in this day and age. And I'll just repeat what he wrote. And this is Felix from Ace Run Pro. And he said Music City was an event unlike any I've previously covered. I won't go into detail, but many of you know the threat of violence loomed during event during round 2. A big shout out to the Pro Tour, the Nashville PD, and all those involved in helping to ensure safety for all competitors, staff, spectators, and volunteers. I pray that something like this never happens again. So, there's so many layers, and I'm going to leave it at that, but Yeah, glad to hear everyone is safe. And at the end of the day, that's clearly a top concern.
Mm-hmm.
That is MCO. You want to quickly talk about this upcoming major this weekend? Yeah, we'll move right into it. I alluded to it earlier. You can call it semantics or a nitty-gritty detail or nitpicky detail, whatever you want to call it. We're going to do our best, as we have been informed, that this is not, in fact, as I said, the Northwood Black course. Understandably, it's 14 of the same holes, so I get it. They have rerouted a few of the holes.
Northwood Zinc.
Northwood, yeah, I don't know.
Cubic zirconium.
Exactly. A few holes, namely, and again, it's even tough for me because now I've seen like 30 iterations of Northwood over the 20 years I've been familiar with being down there. I think literally the first time I was ever at in Peoria area for golf. No, that was in the 90s. So, but in this area specifically, it was like 2006 or 8 or so. Anyway, we skip a few holes that you're used to seeing at Northwood Black. I believe it's right after hole 2. We go to a different section. I think we skip 3, 4, and 5 is what it was of typically what we'd see of 3, 4, and 5. We go to a different section. We play some different holes. And then a few other holes are worked in that are part of the old gold layout, so to speak. So that's what we're going to see this weekend. 4 rounds of it. And let me just say, it's going to be grueling. And let me also just pray or ask or beg that rain and mud.
Oh, it's going to be yucky.
Keeps everyone safe.
Yeah.
The temperatures are going to be perfectly fine. 60s, 70s, somewhere in that neighborhood. Right now, as of here, we are on a Tuesday night. When you type it in, what do we got, Johnny, on the not sponsored by
weather on the 7s? We have it's going to be 67 degrees on Friday with a 97% chance of rain around 10 a.m. That dips down to about 64% in your mid-afternoon, but your drive time home, another 87%. So ultimately, we are going to see some rain on Friday. Moving into Saturday, that drops down to about 20% for most of the day, maybe with a little bit increase at the end of the day at about 48%. Going into Sunday, that does jump up to the mid-60s, 64%, 65%. Around tee-off time, over into the 40% when your MPO are going to be teeing off. Ultimately, Terry, this is going to be a rainy, muddy event that is not going to be enjoyable to be out on the course, is my guess.
No.
That's your weather on the 7s.
Thank you. So, best of luck in that sense. We know that this is a
Thursday looks nice, though.
Wooded course. They've done a lot of work. I was physically there on
Friday. Can they
Friday.
put a big tarp over the course?
I was physically there on Friday, checking it out. I'm so glad I went. I had a front row seat to conversations taking place between some of the PDGA operations staff along with the event staff. It was worth every penny of the admission I paid. It was great. Talking about various concerns and this getting cut and this getting trimmed up and sponsor wall, all this good stuff, all these finishing touches that go into just like they do for every other big event. But it was just great to be there for some of that conversation. And literally tons of wood chips have already been put down. This was back on Friday, had already been put down and in place. It's just going to be muddy. I don't see another way around it for a good portion of this course. There's going to be a lot of mud out there. So I hope everyone, it's going to be slower moving. That's going to be for camera operators. That's going to be for spectators. That's going to be for the players themselves, spotters, volunteers, scorekeepers. I'm not going to lie. There are going to be some long days to buckle up for on the course, in the booth, in the control room. I think everywhere. So I'll be interested to see how long these rounds play. You're playing them 4 rounds for this major. It's going to be slog. Is that the right word?
Slog, I think, is the appropriate term right now.
That's what I think. And I'm not trying to be like Debbie Downer either or overly pessimistic. But when you look at that forecast and then you know what this course has to offer, which is a very difficult track in perfect weather, it's certainly not going to speed things.
Yeah, exactly. Add slipping and possibly some muddy. I have a feeling that the fairways will probably be relatively okay with. I bet you Nate brings in some mulch and things like that, but anywhere off that main fairway, probably not going to be pleasurable. Just it's going to slow things down. Players are going to get frustrated. Cameramen are going to get frustrated. Viewers will probably be frustrated. It's weather. Weather is weather. We've had plenty of inclement weather this year. I'm not picking on the event or the location or anything of that nature. I'm just kind of mentally trying to prepare myself and others for what I think we're going to see. So 4 rounds, 1 course. Yeah, 1 course.
That's what's going to be played. Now, that is important, I think, to note, because when we move into later in the year for Ledgestone, if I recall, I think we're only going to see them playing out at Eureka. So the last couple of years, we've had Eureka and Northwood kind of mixed in together, 2 rounds at one course, 2 at the other. This year, if they're going to play at all at Northwood, which I don't think they are, if they were to play there at Ledgestone, they would play even a slightly different configuration to what they're playing this weekend. But that doesn't even appear to be the case.
No, my understanding is it's all Eureka for Ledgestone for the MPO. I don't know about FPO. I don't know if FPO is going to be playing Sunset Hills. I don't know the FPO configuration, but I know, and put that in quotes, what I heard was that it was going to be all Eureka for MPO.
Eureka, you're right.
Eureka!
Someone asked on the board, please tell me there is a cut. I haven't dug that deep, but I bet you there's not. But there should be. But I bet you there's not. But there should be. Have I made myself clear?
It's a major. They should definitely be a cut.
Let's back up.
I like Nate Heinold, but there's.
I don't think that's a Nate call specifically.
I was about to say, if it's his call, he is on the PDGA board of directors. I think he probably has some influence. He's running the event. I'm assuming the TD on record. I bet he has some sway in it. Make a cut. Period.
Here's all I'm going to say. First of all, I'm going to reach out and see if I can find that answer. I do not know it off the top of my head. I wish I did. So excuse me there. If there's, I just can't say it enough. If there's not, there absolutely should be.
Yeah.
I don't. And if there's not, and there is, and I don't think they would change it to now creating one if there wasn't one scheduled. But if there's not, it is our duty to find out who's in charge of that decision and get them on the show just to understand the logic. Because then clearly you and I aren't getting the logic because we keep calling for them in specific events.
Many people are calling for them.
Yeah. I'm okay. I just want to know who's making those decisions, and I just want to understand and hear from them the logic to the decisions if there is not a cut. Anyway.
All right.
I don't know if there's anything else to be said about it right now. That is, obviously, it is going to be for at least we know some people for sure. It's a 4-round event, all 4 rounds at that course, and it's going to go Thursday through Sunday. Just putting it out there in case anyone's confused about the timing and the event start and end and blah, blah, blah. Thursday through Sunday. I'll go ahead and just tack on to that just for good measure. Myself, Nate Doss, and Nate Perkins. Wow. Myself, Nate Doss, and Nate Sexton will be in the booth in Bend. Myself and Valerie Jenkins in the booth for the FPO from Bend.
And it is free on DGN all weekend as part of. Yes, it is. Watch the Champions Cup. You can see that on the PDGA free on DGN. It's one of those majors where the PDGA is giving it away with your membership. It might not even be your membership. It might just be free in general for all people. But yes, it says all you have to do is link. So it is PDGA. All you have to do is link your PDGA account to your DGN account, and it just takes a few steps. So all the action is free on DGN this weekend. So don't come crying when you say you didn't watch it because it was on DGN, because it's free as in beer.
Yes. So someone asked on the board, is the money line a good cut line? And that is actually the rule. If there is a cut, it has to be, if there's a cut within our professional divisions, at least I could find the exact quote. But yeah, that's a PDGA standard that was not only it went from, I think, being suggested to being required a few years ago. Or it could be even more than that by now. But if there is a cut, you must cut to the money line, and the participants moving in are at or within the money, within the cash line at that point.
Which we've said
That's
is really is really unfortunate when there's a tie. But
yeah, when you're paying out 40, but there was a 6-way tie for 39th, so they all make it in, but then ultimately
5 of them don't.
Five of them potentially don't get any of the money. Yeah, those are all possible scenarios. Did we just talk about that on the show?
We talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It does, yeah.
No,
but
we don't
anyway.
need to go over it. Ray asks a question here, or not asks a question, but says we really should give a shout out to Zach Melton, who did on-course commentary this weekend. A lot of people liked Zach. I didn't. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Zach was great. I mean, a lot of things played into his favor. He was personable. He knows the course really well. He had the advantage of having Chris Dickerson on the lead card, I think, for 2 of those rounds, because him and Chris are so very friendly that it made, for MPO at least, it made it very comfortable for Zach. I think that having Brian as well in the booth with Charlie, I think they were very good at throwing to him at the right moments, asking him the right questions. And Zach just had fun with it, which it was good. I would say Zach, it's hard to say how someone would do in the long run. I mean, I based on this performance, I'd have no problem handing the microphone to Zach any other time for on course. But yeah, not for a first time guy out there. I think there was one check-in where I kind of held my breath a little bit, that the question he was asked, I don't necessarily think he answered it well, and he rambled on for a little bit. And then you're like, that wasn't the best check-in. But that was 1 in 3 days.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, did he hear the question thoroughly? Was he in a bad spot?
Yeah, but other than that, I thought the dude was solid. I had no complaints with Zach on the course.
I would go ahead, and I didn't hear much of the weekend's coverage really at all, to be quite honest with you.
I watched a lot of it.
I watched very little, like literally minutes of it throughout the weekend. However, color me not shocked at all that Zach was good. That's really no surprise. I think what it brings to light, though, because obviously I did hear him a couple of times, what I think it brings to light is really honing in on a strategy, too. What are any of our on-course reporters, what is the main objective? Because for some of the things you just said, having Chris on or having Chris in the group and him being friends with him,
was able to walk down the fairway and ask him stupid questions.
Exactly,
and joke
where
around.
I feel like Zach had a much more personable or personal touch to it, walking with the group. And I'm only throwing this out as a counter example. A lot of times, for instance, when I was in the field, I'll say official. I don't want to call it unofficial. The official strategy was, I'm 3/4 of the way down the fairway, looking for a landing zone or a result of a disc, in or out, things of that nature, and maybe talking about a wind read and things of that. And those are things I can provide from 3/4 of the way down the fairway. More frequently, recently, we've seen both Brian and Zach be much closer to the actual group, to be almost like a silent card member of the group, taking in things that are being said, having interactions, getting personal accounts and recollection, having those conversations. That's just a very different style, and we as an organization need to decide what's acceptable and or what way do we want to move forward.
I personally like, and you were one of the pioneers of this, being on the card. I want some inside stories. I want the behind-the-scenes scoop. I want to hear, oh yeah, Henna and Evelina were talking about the shot, how, it got up and rolled and she didn't expect it. I want to hear that, because I've told you this privately. I hate it. I hate it when the fact that all we get from usually someone when the sideline reporter is 3/4 down the fairway is, hey, Terry, can you tell me about their lie? Hey, Terry, do they have a shot at the basket? Hey, Terry, What happened to that disc? When I swear 60% of the time the viewer can see it because it was on the catch cam. Maybe the people in the booth didn't get a chance to see it, or they didn't get to see an exact line. I understand there is a use to that, but it gets old. It gets so old to me, and maybe I'm alone in this, and that other people want that. So I think that obviously knowing Zach wasn't down the fairway, because there were a lot of times I won't say a lot. There were a few times they'd ask Zach like, "Oh, how do you think that landed?" And he'd just be like, "I'm not sure." Like, It's down the fairway. From what we can tell, it landed here, and I think we got a red flag from a spotter, which maybe we didn't see on camera. So sure. there was a little bit of usefulness in that, but they never once asked him really like, "Oh, what's his lie look like on that?" Because he's not there. He is with the card. You could also see times when they call on him, he's sitting down in his chair. Literally, you've got the reaction camera showing the lead person on the tee. You see Zach in the background. Suddenly his eyes are like, uh-oh. He stands up, walks off screen. You hear as the microphone unmutes.
He has to walk away from the action.
And he has to walk away from the action, which is good and bad. I think as someone, if he were to do it more often, I'd tell him, and it's hard because there's a hard balance. You need to be a little bit further away from the players so that we can get to you sooner, or there needs to be a signal that they are going to come to you. Hey, that could come with a lot of knowing the person on the course, but I like it personally when we get more behind the scenes stuff. I would rather hear a few more stories. I would rather hear a little bit more about what the players are talking about, what you can gather. Maybe you get a good story from a caddy. Maybe you get something from a fan or a spectator that saw something, as opposed to just having basically a third set of eyes for the commentators to ask you, "Oh, that landed on the green. Is that 25 feet out or 35 feet out?" We couldn't quite tell. We'll get there. We'll see it. I can wait.
And that's my whole point.
My personal opinion.
I hear your take, and that's why I'm saying I think the Pro Tour and our overall production team, of which I'm a part of, in various roles, I think we just need to get comfortable with what we find the most value in, what we're trying to accomplish with people out on the ground, because we continue to see a number of different people. We've had myself, we've had Nate Perkins, we have Brian Earhart, we've had now Zach Melton. I don't think we've had too many others.
Zoe's been on there.
Zoe's been out there a few times. Yep. 2 years ago, we had Nate Dawson out there. At one point, we had Ulibarri out there. Point is, I think we just really need to find what it is we're trying to accomplish, because every person, myself included, that goes out there, if you're given one directive and we're maybe that not changes. Fulfilling it, then I think we just need to get comfortable with what that's going to be.
Maybe first and second round you're with the card, and third round we'll say if third's a final round, you're down on the fairway to give the commentators more, because maybe we don't want that type of story or interaction or interjection in a heated battle. You're going to get less of that if it's if you've got Ricky versus Paul or AB versus Burr, and we're probably not going to come down to the course like, "Hey, Terry, tell us what's going on." Like, the battle itself is the story. So maybe that's the type of scenario where, hey, guess what? I'm going to be down the course. You can ask me about lies. You can ask me about wind reads, things like that. But maybe the early rounds, you are with the card getting that stuff. I do think that there is some improvements and just communication that can happen with the Pro Tour. And again, this is us talking behind the curtain stuff, because we flat out, I could literally call Mo. Well, not right now. He's in bed because he's kind of a young kid. He goes to bed early. I could call him and say, "Hey, this is what I think. This is my opinion on what should happen." And he'd probably be like, "Yeah, that's a good take. I think this and this." And we'd have a great conversation. We would. Mo listens to me. But in general, I think there is some cushion or leeway we could definitely have with how the on-course person is handled versus how they're currently handled. So, whatever. I don't have to deal with that. Beaver State Fling, it's the only thing I care about now this year.
Nobody cares about your input then. So of course, congrats to Zach and his performance there. Again, neither of us are shocked as to him performing well. So
he's great.
good to hear and good to see. And who knows? This could spark a whole new integration of Zach, depending on where he feels physically and mentally and what he wants to take on. And speaking of which, I'll quickly sidebar to also getting surgery on her ankle yesterday or this morning, one of the two, was Sarah Hokum. And with that, Sarah Hokum is going to be in the booth next weekend for the Dynamic Disc Open. So I believe it's going to be Ian and Sarah Hokum in the booth. And of course, there's a timing to all of this with what events Sarah wanted to play or not, and then when she could work her surgery in, and then in having the surgery, and then being 10 or 12 days out from that, being able to be at the Dynamic Disc Open, but instead of playing, obviously being in a booth. So you're going to hear a different voice in that sense, and also I think that's the weekend we're going to hear Ian and Jeremy Colling in the booth at Dynamic Disc Open. So. There was a thread I know posted within one of the Facebook groups saying, hey, where's Philo? Almost wondering if he was either fired or not doing it anymore. And as I replied to that thread, I said, we have a set schedule at the beginning of the year. Of course, it can slightly alter, but for the most part, a schedule is set. There's various events, various teams, various things that all get worked in. Philo's obviously been on a couple of broadcasts this year, and then we're going to hear from him again. I believe the two events after the Dynamic Disc Open, or 2 weekends after, which would be probably OTB. I'm guessing he's in the booth with Ian for OTB. Will be the next time, because Champions Cup, then Dynamic Disc Open, and then the week after, or 2 weeks after that, the next event is, and that'll be OTB. So just throwing it out there for anyone that wants to know a little bit of what's to come. But it's all been planned out, is really my point of that.
And for those of you that were wondering, yes, 100%. Eagle McMahon is on the MPO.
Assuming he plays.
Feature card. Assuming he plays. He's scheduled to be on the feature card. I'm not going to spoil anything else because usually they do some sort of social media release, but I do see Eagle McMahon on the lead card or the feature card. Round 1 is not a lead card, so the feature card. And I would have bet my house on that one. that his comeback is going to be a storyline that they are going to want to talk about.
Reading on the board, Ray says, are players getting paid for stepping in for a one-off situation, presumably like a Zach?
Is that like $3,000 or $4,000 around they make? I think that's what I heard Zach made.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'm sure he was. I can't say I'm sure. I would think he was probably compensated. Let me just say this. I will say this out loud. If he wasn't, I also don't think that's crazy, only because I'm like a first weekend trial basis for something in this type of industry, I don't think is crazy. However, I'm guessing they compensated him. But if they didn't,
to me that
or compensated him in a lesser capacity,
that's what I was thinking.
That's probably also what happened. Is, hey, we're gonna,
our standard guys make this much. You're gonna make 50% of that because it's a first time. We're trying you out. You could suck. You could be great. We don't know. But it's opening the door. It's opening the door for you to get potential first thing.
That's only a guess, though. I have no idea. Or he made $4,000 per.
I think it was $4,000. I don't know if it's a round or
so $8,000 a day.
Yeah.
Times
That's usually. I've heard that's the going.
That's what I would have paid.
I heard that's the going.
I mean, if he was on my, if
he didn't make that, I would definitely call Jeff Spring.
Philo is busy at Fish Mexico. Is that happening? I don't know. Why am I reading out loud? I like Hannah.
Let's
McBee
wrap this up,
in the
Terry.
booth. She seemed like she was prepared with notes. She certainly was. She had a different style.
We can get to some of the stuff in
others.
the after show.
Got free beer. Who got free beer? Wait a minute. He got free beer? I gotta go. I'm doing this all wrong if Zach got free beer. Okay, guys. We appreciate you guys all for joining us tonight. The show's not over. Nope. Sounds like I'm wrapping it up, but I'm not. What we're doing is we're going to stand down for just a few moments. We're going to cut out of our regular show, and then we'll move into the after show after a very short break. The after show will consist of interacting with you on the board to answer any other questions or thoughts that you may have, and we may or may not talk about things that are golf or non-golf related. I have some very insightful takes on the new Taylor Swift album release.
I did did listen to the first song. Like I've never listened to.
There you go.
Gone on my way listening to Taylor Swift song, and
If
it
you
popped
want
up in
all
my
of that
YouTube
and
feed.
more, it's in the after show. I really don't have any insightful takes this time, but we'll hear what Johnny has to say. So for Simon Lizotte, your champion at Music City Open, congratulations to him. Also, congratulations to our defending FPO champion in Kristen Tatar. We wish everyone the best this upcoming weekend at the PDGA Major, and we wish Simon and his family the best as they welcome another child into the world come Thursday morning. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back with their after show. We'll see you then. You step inside the SmashBoxx.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxx TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxx TV Podcast 503's After Show. It's the after show.
Where we talk about whatever the heck we want.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's disc golf related. Sometimes it's Taylor Swift related. Those are really the only two subjects. That's all there is in the world.
When T Swift is topping the charts.
She dropped an album.
Did more than that.
Did she? She dropped an album and a video.
Okay.
Which I watched because it came up in my YouTube feed. Normally I wouldn't care, but it was like right there. I opened up YouTube, and amongst all my other like different woodworking and tech and stuff like that, right in the middle, it was like, hey,
just infiltrating your life.
She was like, would you like to watch this video with me and Post Malone? And I'm like, ugh, I don't know.
Just like that. And now,
yes, and
you're a Swiftie.
And that was 3 minutes of my life.
There you go. What I will lead with, which was brought up by one of our favorite Smashies out there, Tim Quartz, because it does feel like it was a much longer time than that ago. Back on Thursday, I had an order for nearly 15,000 ants. No, for 15,000 boxes, cardboard boxes to deliver ultimately to Ledgestone. Ledgestone, as some of you know, not only do they run their own shop, online store, tournament, all that stuff, they also are a fulfillment house for a lot of Team Discraft players. You buy a Missy Gannon Ledgestone Thrasher, something or other, Super Series, it's coming. It's also coming out of there. And they're smart, and they use my disc in a box to get your discs.
Everybody should.
Not every order, not every disc, but more often than not, they're using my boxes. And I appreciate their business and support. Well, I brought them 15,000 more. And in doing so, that pretty much fits perfectly within an XL-sized, completely emptied cargo van. Like, I forget the phrasing for them, but one of those big cargo vans. They're the same ones that, is it a transit van? The same ones that everybody buys and then turns into their travel van. So one of the largest ones they make, the big ceiling, all that stuff. On the way to picking up said boxes, I stopped by the rental place and they say, yeah, so we don't have what you need, what you rented, what you paid for online. We don't have that. And the reason being, I guess is worth sharing. Reason being is there's some recall on a bunch of the Ford Transit vans and something about shavings getting into the transmission or something. I don't know. There's some recall going on. I'm such a car guy. Well, so they're not putting them back out on the road right now currently, and that's a large portion of their fleet. So they said, what we have for you instead is a 26-foot box truck.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I was given like a 15-foot one other time renting from these guys, and that was a unique experience. 26 feet.
I would be afraid to back up at all.
Yes.
Yeah, just...
Yes. I still feel like I should have more training or some other certification rather than just a credit card and insurance in order for them to hand that to me. And I'm happy to report 520 miles later, round trip, I hit nothing.
That you know of.
That I know of. I backed up at one point and I was in a parking lot and I just so happened to stop 6 inches from a major pole. Now, granted, I was backing up super slowly, so had I hit it, I would have probably felt a very slow pushback to it.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, the pole was, it was a pole that maybe like holds up like a major billboard or sign. Like it was ginormous.
Oh, geez.
So I couldn't have really run into it hard. I was backing up so slowly as it was. But I just happened to just out of dumb luck stop 6 inches short of hitting that. Otherwise, I hit nothing that I know of. And I filled up a 70-gallon diesel truck. Like, I feel like I earned a little extra gruff man card experience and points.
Look
here.
at you, stud.
Yeah.
This is like, heavy hauling.
Yeah. OTL?
CDL.
No, I was thinking like over the OTR. I don't even know the phrasing because I'm not a trucker.
No.
Like when you go on the... Yeah, what truckers do. And yes, I don't need a CDL, which, again, surprising. A 26-foot truck. As I said in other places, I have a heightened sense of respect for everyone that drives vehicles that large or larger, and just be so much more kinder and gentler on the road for some of these people. Because as someone else eloquently pointed out, they said, you're in a 26-foot Enterprise, this is not an ad, Enterprise rental truck, the largest truck for someone with probably the least amount of experience. And they were spot on.
Sure.
Like, there's thousands of people like me that maybe are just getting that for one weekend, for one move, for, kind of a one-off scenario. I hope I'm never in a truck that big again, driving one. So, yeah, that's such a great point. Like when you see someone in a semi, of course, you want to be respectful and polite and all these things. They have a license and they've probably gone through dozens or hundreds of hours of training. Not my idiot self.
No, they just tossed you the keys and said,
tossed me a key.
See you later there, buddy.
Yeah, this thing, I learned about, I think, air brakes or something. Like it doesn't have a park. Like you put it in neutral and you press a button and then that's what keeps you there. I'm like, okay, I hope I don't F this up because that could be...
Hope I don't roll away.
Yeah, that could be trouble. So some of you are laughing or rolling your eyes, and that's fine because this is no big deal to you in your life. And I don't think I'm not claiming I need a cape or I did anything magical by any means, but it was a new experience and no one died. And for me...
what was your CB handle?
That was a success. I don't really have one.
Oh, you got
when my dad and I occasionally used to talk on some two-ways, he'd call me Red Fox, which wasn't a play on Red Fox the actor, but just more of like the red hair.
Yeah, that's most people don't know who Red Fox is, Terry.
Correct, because we're of a certain age.
Yeah, even our age, Red Fox was like, hey, I think I saw him in a rerun.
Exactly. So. No, I didn't have any good trucker handles, but yeah, it was a heck of an experience. So, tip of the cap and shout out to everyone else that can handle something. So, anyway, I successfully did drop off the boxes, and maybe more importantly, I got a course walkthrough, I said, with the PDGA along with the host staff to see the course and everything getting ready for this weekend. So. Yes. All right. I'm going to read, yes, Ray says almost a CDL. Would love to see someone from pre-conference till awards reporting.
Sam is talking about whether or not we have, or when will we be big enough to justify a reporter being able to stay the entire event, whether it's from a major network or even from Ultaworld, because even at right now, Ultaworld doesn't send out a specific person. Most of the time, Ultaworld does their reporting remotely, and I'm saying most of the time because they do have people on site sometimes. Reporting on, and then Charlie, like this weekend, like literally the minute his shift was done, he was on the road and to the airport because, in general, he's a new father, so he wants to be home, similar as we heard from Simon. But it's just there's probably logistics for him flying in and out of the East Coast and New York and whatever he's doing. So, how long till we can justify someone that his sole job is to report on the event from start to finish? At the event, not just remotely.
From a major news organization?
Yeah, well, we can start there.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I'll say like,
I mean, how many major reporters are at the from start to finish at the World Championship cornhole? Like, is there a dedicated?
I'm sure there is.
Probably,
maybe
not.
I'm sure there. I'm not saying I'm sure. I bet there probably is from some cornhole specific news media. But other than that, I mean, the whole industry. Getting into a whole industry rant. The whole industry of online reporting and whatnot is changed. Like the money in websites and ads. It's declining, and someone like Ultaworld to justify that type of cost for somebody for 3 full days or 4 or 5 or whatever that time is, depending on the event, they're probably not making that money up in the articles that will be written, the pictures that will be taken by said reporter. It's probably a little bit different with a major news media. Like, we'll just say even your local ABC. I don't think local ABC probably has a person at even a PGA event. They probably have someone come in, do some reporting, talk to some people. Maybe they're there towards the end, but I don't think they're there the whole time. I don't know. I don't know, Sam. Honestly, it's hard.
Well, this is a very naive. I don't think it's naive because I genuinely don't know. When Charlie does, and I guess when in the idea of like reporting and what does a report look like versus like I think a podcast have been kind of like a wrap-up show. Obviously, I've done some of my wrap-up shows at night, which are usually alone. Charlie and Ultaworld, that is strictly audio, right? And then is that live?
What are you talking?
So like maybe he did it this weekend.
Well, he was in the booth this weekend.
Correct. So yes. I'm saying, did he then do a live podcast every night?
Not every night. No, they did a reacts at the end of the event, and that was it.
Okay. So, but normally, let's just say
they do that for
like majors. I think at Worlds. Yeah. Okay. So like at a Worlds or this major.
Yeah. I think even at this major, they might only be doing 2 of them every other night or something.
Okay. And are those done? Are those done straight live, or are those recorded and then posted?
Straight live. I mean, they're recorded then posted usually, because I think they will sometimes they'll throw an ad in there
or clean it up or something. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so those aren't just a stream of live, because I guess
I think they do it live. You can listen to it live via like their Discord.
Okay.
But yeah, okay. It's similar to.
And I guess that's where I'm going with this is I think about ways in which if I'm working or not, or could I expand and be useful in any other capacity once all of the broadcasting is done? Meaning, how well received, and I know they're different people and they do probably a much better job, but like how well received is that? How valuable is that to people to be able to then listen to essentially a live reacts or podcast or whatever right after a broadcast has just ended? And I wonder if that demand is going to increase. And then I guess part B to that same question is, does anyone care if it's audio only versus the absolute basic rudimentary elementary terrible producing and graphics I give. You know, like, is there any true added value to that, or are people just
I don't think anyone
content
cares.
just listening?
I think people are content listening. I think a video could be useful if you had a couple screenshots of like scoreboards and things like that up.
Because clearly video, like what I do from a video and a YouTube perspective, could be a million times easier if I wasn't concerned about any video.
Sure.
If I was just, I'm speaking all selfishly here or personally, if I were just to say, okay, at 8:00 on Thursday night after the tournament's done, 8:00 Thursday night, I'm going to do an hour, and all I'm concerned about is what's on my screen and not necessarily what I'm projecting to the world. That's a million times easier lift than trying to do anything that incorporates any kind of video. And if that's valuable, if some people find that valuable, that's something I would entertain doing, just because it's such an easier lift than setting up video and then having things to put on a screen besides my face. Nobody needs that.
Define valuable. If people will listen, but do you find it valuable? What value does it have in for you? Are you trying to build your brand? Are you hoping for sponsors? Are you hoping for commercials? Are you hoping, like, what would be your goal with it in that other than just you got nothing to do at 8:00 after the event? I just
don't want to feel alone when I'm getting hammered on some pastry stouts.
I mean, you're never alone, Terry.
Well, no, but in a serious
and then the thing is, like, would that be live? Would you be broadcasting that live? Because part of that is, even with Charlie and those guys, that's somewhat interactions with their chat room.
Okay, and that was my next question.
They will take questions if Ryan Pilcher is out there and it says, "Oh, I really thought this was interesting." And they might grab that comment and say, like, "Oh yeah, Ryan, this was interesting," and then they talk about it. So,
and to be fair, it's not like it's a cheat code, but to do an hour of, we'll say, interact, just kind of like our after show, to do an hour of interaction or an hour that involves interaction, feels like it's more fulfilling and hopefully more entertaining, as opposed to just, here's a straight hour of me spewing stuff at you.
Of course. I think anytime
that's where, but then again, that's where, like, does a video matter? Does it not? Could it be on a YouTube with just a static image and that does it, but then the interaction in the platform is still there? That might be I don't know. And I'll be the first to admit, I do not know Charlie or any other of our media partners as to how or what they do, because typically when I'm done with doing whatever I'm doing, like, I'm checked out. I don't get off the course, and this, I think everyone could understand this. I don't get off the course of walking a course for 8 hours of FPO and MPO and then run into my hotel and be like, yeah, but what did Charlie have to say today? That's no disrespect to Charlie. It's just simply something I don't feel like I need to do at that point.
And taking it from myself, like, I look at my own perspective. I find the most value in those shows immediately after the event. I'm talking like 5 minutes. That event,
like a post-game show.
100%. That event wraps up. You have my attention right there. If I know there's a regular thing, I think they did I don't know when they did their wrap-up show, because Charlie left. He had to fly out. It was late in the night, and then 10, 11 o'clock Eastern time. I'd already checked out. At that point, then my interest my interest has waned. If I want a post-game show, I literally want, and I've thought about this. I've thought about doing it myself. 5 minutes after the event. The event wraps up. I know Perks and those guys will do one. I would go right over them. I wouldn't,
as an alternative.
Yeah, sure. Just that is when you have my interest, because maybe after the tournament central, then you could maybe bring some people in as well. But I think that for me personally, it would have to be immediately after, and then that's how I would want to consume it. Because again, like I said, you get 15, 20, 25 minutes out of that event. My TV's already off.
Sure.
I'm probably wandered over and started talking to my family, unfortunately. And, at that point, no thanks. You can listen to the things the day or two later, which is fine.
Sure.
But as far as, like, interaction, it's got to be immediate.
Yeah, which, from my perspective, the times, and Ryan says that he likes when I do them at some of the rounds of majors, it is a matter of, I'll just use USDGC as a great example. I'm out there working that event until the last putt drops, so on and so forth. Is it a matter of do I need a half hour or an hour or 2 hours? We're on the East Coast, so you kind of have an advantage time-wise. But to get over there, to get to the hotel, and then presumably go live, like how quick is that? And then what am I preparing? Because am I giving you stuff on screen, or are we just kind of riffing off of various subjects? I don't know. It's a space I would love to continue to explore. I don't know what the perfect balance is. All right, enough of that. I love chatting with Ryan P. on the Reacts as Pilot Sam.
Yeah, Sam Martin. It goes by Pilot Sam.
Oh, okay.
Because I think he's a pilot.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I like that. Bob Goike says, and it's Patreon only. That's an interesting.
That is theirs. Theirs is a Patreon only. You can
see. I like that
because Patreon only gets you into their Discord, and then that's where they do their recording. So that is a Patreon only exclusive. Obviously, something. As well.
or maybe a couple days of it. Maybe the first day or two is open to everybody, and then the last 2 days that you do at a 4-round major, those are exclusively behind your Patreon. I guess there's some ideas there. Ryan says the perfect balance is 2 to 3 stouts. Not if you're having Dragon's Milk triple mash at 18.7.
And it's only one.
Then yes. You get down to business with 18.7% Dragon's Milk triple mash. If you're looking to sponsor me, Dragon's Milk, only during your Reserve Barrel series, I'm on board. Ray says, I've been tempted to join the Upshot Patreon for the reaction show so I can contribute my hot takes.
But he says he's a SmashBoxx exclusive personality, which we appreciate him for.
Yes, we do. We thank you so much for that. All right, what else is going on inside or outside of the disc golf world? We see
the Bucks lost tonight. They're 1-1 with the Pacers. Giannis is still.
How'd Reggie Miller shoot? Was he on fire tonight?
He was not. No,
Damn it.
No. I think he
Reggie's
was on crutches.
We're related.
Wow.
Yeah, Reggie Miller. Yeah.
Huh. I gathered that much, Terry. I was a little surprised. And is it by marriage?
You don't see that resemblance anywhere down our family tree. Reggie Miller and me. No. Okay. I'll have to look. Where that crossroad was.
Yeah, but no, the Bucks lost. Giannis is not playing. I hope he feels better and he gets in there playing soon. We crushed him the first game. They seem to crush us this game. I would like to see the Bucks make it to the second round, but it's not. Our team is mediocre this year, and it kind of scares me.
Okay, I like that.
But whatever, that's what happens. Ter. Sports ball.
Yeah, I'm just going to tease it out. There's a Q Series event taking place that it looks like I am. My channel is all locked in. Pretty exciting. Last night, working with a couple of guys who are going to take the bull by the horns. They're going to run with it to make the coverage happen, but it will all be on my channel, and I'm going to have some announcements about that. But trying to get some more coverage out there for some of the Q Series events. Obviously, all part of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and people trying to earn their way onto the tour and earn their cards and so on and so forth. So
I'm excited to see John Delancey.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. All right. What else do we have going on out there, Johnny?
As in what? As in
anything?
Anything?
I'm going through some of my notes here, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that's been standing out as. That was a pretty big deal for me to make that that trip and come out alive. That was certainly the highlight for me this last weekend.
Yeah, there's not much going on this weekend. Obviously, with the Champions Cup going on. Actually, I think my family's leaving this weekend. I'm going to be staying here.
Sweet.
Maybe do a little bit of plumbing down here, but also probably watch a lot of Champions Cup.
You are not working in any capacity, as you were alluding to earlier.
Zero capacity will I be working this event. I will just be sitting, watching maybe some TV, and mocking everybody.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Alfred on the board says no hockey talk.
Neither of us
if
really know
one thing
hockey.
We really don't know anything about. Hockey is on top of that list.
Yeah, that is the top of our list. I've never followed hockey. The closest I've gone to 2 hockey games this year. they were both my niece's hockey games, and she's 11 or 12. So,
okay.
So those, you know,
So you're pretty much an expert.
Yeah, I'm more or less all over it. I mean, they won both games I went to, so I mean, I'm just saying that
all that knowledge you brought certainly helped.
Clearly,
Ray asks, "How did the robotics go?"
Oh, robotics was actually it was good. I want to say really good. They ended up out of 75 teams because there's a bunch of different divisions. They finished in 25th. Now, again, the way the finals worked, the top 8 teams got to kind of snake draft two teams to start with them and then an alternate team. Unfortunately, even though I thought my son's team was in 25th, I thought they maybe had a chance. They did not get picked, so they did not end up making the finals. Overall, I thought they were a good team. I was a little surprised they didn't at least get picked for an alternate, but every team has something they're looking for to maybe complement their own team. And they did not get picked. But overall, I thought they performed very well. They had a record of 6-4. So they had a winning record, and they averaged, I think it was like 93 points a game. And I know that doesn't say much, when the top teams were averaging about 103 points. So they weren't far off. There were teams clearly that got picked that averaged worse, but again, they were maybe different. My favorite thing was they had some team, and I forget the name of them, had a robot they built, and they called it the ShackBot. And all it was a robot with a giant metal blocking device. It was just a big rectangle in front, and it had a picture of Shaq on it. And its whole goal was just to get in front of the other teams and stop them from scoring. So I honestly,
did they have any offense of their own with that?
They could do offense, but they didn't.
Okay.
Their whole goal was just to block. They played defense, and it was hilarious because every time you hear the announcer be like, "And ShackBot in the way again," blocking that one. So it was a lot of fun to see all these kids do this the crazy stuff. So exciting, and just next year will be a whole different game, and it'll be a whole different setup. They'll have to do something different, and yeah, looking forward to it. My son's happy that he now has free time on weekends. He's no longer, since basically November, it's been almost every weekend and 3 nights a week, maybe sometimes 4 at school from 6 to 9 o'clock.
Damn.
And so now he's happy that he doesn't have to go to school so much. So we're going to try to find something. He should start a
robotics podcast.
Oh, he could. That'd be tough because during robotics season, he's doing robotics. You know?
All right. I want to give you guys, don't say we didn't warn you. I took a look just now at the 2024 PDGA Pro Masters World Championship. The next wave of registration opens tomorrow. Yes, I'm seeing 10:30 p.m. Eastern, if that's what Eastern Daylight Time.
Well, EST would be Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so it's so weird to see EDT, which is not
Eastern
something
Daylight
we're used to
Time.
seeing often.
Nope.
But anyway, 10:30 p.m. Eastern is when registration opens for invitees to choose a non-invited division that they are eligible for. So sometimes people would earn their way into, say, MP, 55, and they would really rather play in MP 60 because they're actually of that age, or MP 50, or whatever the case might be. That's where you have the opportunity to potentially shift divisions, it sounds like. The other thing, and then on May 1st, registration opens for all Masters Age PDGA professional members. Wow, sounds like Johnny V should sign up on the 1st.
No,
what we're seeing, though, and what part of the reason why I bring this up, last time I had looked, which was a few days ago, the AM Masters Worlds side of that week had 124 people overall on the various waiting list of all the different divisions. On the Pro Masters side, there's currently almost 200 spots available in total. Not in every single division. Some of the divisions are full. But for instance, in FP40, for example, there's 28 spots, but 10 of them have been registered for. In MP50, 63 out of 72 spots, so on and so forth. So my point is, There are spots that are open and available in some of the divisions on the pro side, not so much on the AM side from what we're seeing. And then really what the foreshadowing here is, if we get to a point where some of these don't fill, the next question becomes, hey, will some of these scenarios be able to maneuver or shift? That's going to come down to the pool. That's going to come down to the course you were assigned. It's not as easy as just saying, well, hey, there's 100 spots that are going unfilled, so we can just put 100 more AMs out there. Not necessarily. Not if it's not on the course or within the configuration that's been set forth. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. Those are for our Masters age peeps, peers of Johnny V and myself. I am hoping to be on the ground working in that capacity for that week. But just wanted to throw it out there that's taking place from a PDGA perspective.
I haven't decided if I'm going to sign up. We'll find out next weekend when I play an MP40 event up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm going to play Standing Rocks Open, and I'm playing in the MP40 division, not the MA40 where I was hoping to play, but I had to step up because I'm just too high rated, Terry.
Yeah.
I missed it by
You and Kristen
a single
breaking glass ceilings.
I think I'm like rated like 921
left and right
or something dumb, and you have to be 920, or maybe I'm 920 exactly. I honestly, I don't. Is it? You realize that you're at a point where you just don't even know your own rating is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've certainly concerned myself with that.
I'm looking around. I'm literally rated 920, and the cutoff is 920.
It'll be your 200th event as well.
Oh yeah, career events 199. It'll be my 200th event. I didn't know that. So
where was Statmando on that one?
Geez, Statmando.
What are you even doing with your time, Statmando? If you're not giving weekly updates on Johnny V,
that's right.
I just don't know what you guys
Schwebby has more wins than events I've played. So that's where it stands. I have signed up for a few events this year. I've got Standing Rocks.
What else is on there? Let me see.
I have the Pickle. I just signed up. I signed up for where it's playing at the Quarry.
Yeah,
which is all redesigned and I haven't seen. So I only because I haven't seen the new redesign of the Quarry. Normally you're right. And then Northwoods Open. We're not playing at Northwood. Northwoods Open. I plan on playing as well. So I think there might be one more event if I'm lucky I'll get to sign up for this year. But yeah, it's a little exciting. I was actually out back, baskets out, and I was doing a little bit of practice putting. And by practice putting,
that's all you needed.
I was still hitting putts. I mean,
yeah,
gosh.
that's what I'm saying.
No, I just practice putting as in I grabbed a handful of putters, took about 10 steps away from the basket, threw them, walked up, did it again, maybe a third time, and I was like, I'm good, and I walked away. So that's the practice putting. It's
like riding a bike.
It kind of is a little bit, but it's much. I find it difficult to practice putt when my daughter sits at the window and like literally cheers. Literally cheers at every putt, whether it's made or missed. She screams and yells, and it's just distracting as you're trying to warm up your next one, and she's like, "Woo!" It's cute, it's awesome. I love it that she's interested in watching me play. It's just like you cannot sit and focus on something when she's screaming and yelling from her window.
Even for your failures.
Even for my failures. Well, she laughs even harder when you miss. Because if you hit the basket and it goes doink, she goes, oh, so close. And I'm just like, yes, I know.
Just need to bring her up to the course. And
wander away and go do something else.
Cheer her on. You on.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I just saw posted, because it definitely will be a topic of conversation this upcoming weekend, is the PDGA or PDGA Stats, I should say, on X has posted a list of every MPO player who has birdied hole 12 at the Northwood Black since 2021. It lists, 9 players? I'll read the short list quickly. Ricky Wysocki twice, Anthony Barella twice, Double G twice, and then once for Kyle Klein, Mason Ford, Benjamin Page, Ben Calloway, Albert Tom, and Nick Robertson. 12 birdies in 896 attempts. I think that's really the headline. 12 birdies in 890, let's just call it 900, in 900 attempts.
Some might say the par is wrong.
Not if you're Rick or AB. Or
no, the par is still wrong. Like that. Those are numbers that should be eagles probably. Like if it's that few.
Yeah, 1.34.
I would have to see. I'd have to see the percentage of pars. Like if the par percentage is like 80%, or which I know it's not.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably closer to like 25.
Yeah. If that's the case, then I feel like it's the wrong par. Now, if it was closer like 60 or 70% par, then you could say, okay, maybe that is parred right, and it's just a very, very, very difficult birdie. But I believe you're right in that the par is actually relatively low. And so those should probably be the birdies, and the bigger number should probably be a par 6. But whatever.
Yeah, Tim says par 6. Or move up the tee a little. Yeah, there was the main topic of conversation regarding that hole specifically was just the area of the bridge, and if there's if there's to be any relief. Obviously, at one point, you have to throw over where the bridge is and the gully that's down there, or the ditch that's down there, and then where players land. Should there be any OB? Should there be considered any casual relief at all? Those are all conversation pieces that the PDGA and the staff were trying to work out.
Whatever is going to speed up the round. Whatever is going to make it not a 45-minute wait for a group.
Yeah, and they had
on good weather.
Around the tee area, just shy of the tee area, there is a relatively large space that looks like it was cleared out with some bushes and trees. It's not part of play. It's off to the side of the tee, is what I should say.
Did they build a little cabin there with a couple beds?
No, that's what I said. I said
players can
put
sleep
a
there?
patio and put some food out here. I said not only for the players, but for all the spectators. Like, people are going to be camped out here. People are going to be camped out here for a long time. I'm saying this is an opportunity to have a little snack bar.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
To be put out there. And if they don't do it, I want to do it. I'm gonna go start my pretzel truck.
Ooh,
sell pretzels
with your giant 36-foot truck.
Yeah, I'll just bring it in the back. I'll put it in the back of my box truck. Now that I know how to work a lift gate.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not.
You're more man than me now, Terry.
Never a doubt. All right, let's do a giveaway. I did manage to get a couple more things shipped out to our Patreon
Yippity-skippity.
people. I also have submitted all of the artwork and waiting on confirmation as to what artwork turnaround is for our Patreon disc.
Woo!
But manufacturers have artwork in hand.
That's great.
Which is exciting. And thank you. Thank you is all I'll say to Tim Courts, who's helping out with our Patreon specific discs right now. So thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. All right. Patreon.com/SmashBoxx TV. You've all heard it before. That's where you can support our show for as little as $1 a month, or as much as you want to give. Honestly, if you wanted to give us $100 a month, we would take it. We would happily take it.
We would?
We would, Terry. We definitely would. But for as little as $1 a month, you are automatically entered into the Patreon giveaway, or you can go to smashboxx.tv/weekly giveaways every single week, where I pull those names as well. This week, we have 134 people eligible for our giveaway, Terry. Terry Miller. Number 2, back-to-back wins.
No.
Oh, my God.
It's too easy. That was his third Music City win.
You want to do 3? So 3 music.
Or you could say that Chris Dickerson has finished in the top 10 at 100 out of 101 events
99%.
That's I was thinking about that stat, and
I think he finished 11th at one or something. I looked it up in Statmando.
I was gonna that's the only thing that bothered me is what's the one he didn't do it at.
I mean,
when you have that stat of saying you finished in the top 10 100 out of 101 times. I naturally, the jerk pessimist in you wants to say, well, yeah, but what event was the one he didn't?
Yeah,
was it an early event in that stretch?
Yeah, they should have. And I forgot that this is actually live. So what you do is go down here, and we can scroll down to Tennessee. There it is, and it'll automatically filter it. So then what we can do is we can sort by place. 11th place, the Volunteer Classic 9, sponsored by Prodigy, October 2014. His average event rating was 975.
Click on that event just out of curiosity as to whom was out in front of him.
Winning, Will Schustrick, Zach Melton,
Joey Lutz.
Yep. Tim Tic Tac Austin, Matt Kreider, Bryce Braden, Nate Wygren?
Wygren, who we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I feel like I should know that name. Aaron Smart, Weston Isaacs, Michael Hoffman, and then Christopher Dickerson.
Wow,
Christopher.
that was even and
yeah, he was rated only 985 at the time. That was the rating at the time, and there was only 23 people there. So,
ouch! Wow, what an embarrassment.
I don't know how he showed his face in Tennessee ever again. All right, so you want to do 3, Terry?
Yes, let's do 3.
All right, our first number is 111. Our second number is 110.
Damn.
Are we going to go 109? That would just be
112.
That'd be crazy. I sorted it by first name.
First name.
The number is 116.
Wow.
A lot of high numbers tonight.
Wow, is this going to be Webb Warren? I'm just thinking of people late in the
116. Let's look. It is it's Theron Hobbs.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And Theron is one of our yeah.
No.
Am I reading that correctly?
I believe I'll have to double check that, but he might have been. He might have been the
just a submission.
No. Yeah, he was a submission on
a weekly submission
on 4/16/24.
We're not calling you cheap, but he got away with one.
He got away with one. Congratulations. I honestly truly like it when someone wins like that because it proves that we do pull in those names every single week.
That's otherwise against Patreon's terms of service.
Yeah, I'm not breaking any terms of service. I ain't that way.
We are only by the book here.
We are up and up. You will not catch us doing anything shady.
Never.
We're good at hiding it. That's why you won't catch us.
Yes. So thank you very much for jumping on and going through the due diligence of re-signing up every week.
He does too. I'm looking on there.
Like, it would almost be easier if he just paid the $1
there. Yeah, he religiously is entering every single week. So
we'll take it.
Yeah, it's great. I should
spread that love around.
Does he do it the same time every single week?
Yeah. Is there some?
Nope, he doesn't. I thought maybe he scripted it or something, but no, it's a different time.
Through all that work,
but good for him.
Okay,
congratulations, Theron.
Oh, I have breaking news! Breaking news! Breaking news! Oh,
what's the breaking news, Terry?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to share it, but we're going to.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
I had reached out earlier to see if I could get any insight as to a cut, which I know is a conversation we
did have. We said that there should be a
earlier.
Cut. And if not, we're going to reach out to Nate Heinold.
It sounds like one may happen, and it sounds like it may be weather concerns, which you got to think.
It's going to be slow because of the rain.
It's going to be so, like, there may be days we don't even complete a round fully, and then that's going to carry over, and they could potentially carry over. But
and I know you said this is
like a cut is confirmed is unofficially what I'm hearing.
Unofficially, a cut is confirmed. Good. I personally, even if it were supposed to be 68 and sunny
all weekend, I know you want one regardless.
I want a cut regardless at the majors.
Yeah.
Cut the fluff.
Speaking of cutting, that doesn't make any sense, but PDGA is calling for board of directors, right? Did we talk about that last week, or is that new since last week? Just want to get it out there. This is certainly significant in that if you want to get out there and you want to contribute in some way more than or in a differently than how you have in the past, you could certainly run for a board of directors position. And on the socials, on the internets, I saw one Drew Gibson say that he's going to put his hat in the ring for running for a board of director spot. So that is all of note since last week.
Here's what I'll say about.
I'm going to put it in the chat as they are sought for the elections.
I have seen in the last 15 years multiple different touring pros get on different boards. It never seems to go well. So I don't know. If Drew has a good platform, by all means, I hope people vote for him. If he aligns with what you believe. I just have had the experience where the touring pros in general that have made the board it hasn't been the best experience. So
I would slightly elaborate on that and just say Drew and others have called for, we need touring pro representation on the board. We need it. I
disagree with that.
I'm.
I mean, I won't say I disagree. I'm indifferent. I don't think we do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I don't think we need it. Do I think it is great if it could, if they fit the bill and they're qualified? Of course.
Yeah.
However, just because you're a touring pro, I don't think should be the is enough of a qualifier. And as Johnny was just alluding to, we've seen enough touring pros, popular, well-liked touring professionals, get on the board, and I think it's fair to say that most of them have either ended their term early and or have been seemingly ineffective. And if any of them want to argue with us that they were very effective, I would love to give them that platform to hear it. But I think most of them that got there at some point either A, exited early, whether it was on their own volition or not, they exited early, and B, I think a lot of them would provide insight and say, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
It's a lot of politics. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of communication. It's not like you can just go and be like, here are my ideas.
Yeah, make them happen. I'm 1060 rated. Well, none of them were, but I'm 1020 plus rated. Here's all my bright ideas.
No,
make them happen. Like that's not how that board or really any board should operate.
And here's what I say about why I don't necessarily think that a touring pro or a pro in general will say is there's any reason for the PDGA these days, because I think the touring pro, their main worry or function should be the Disc Golf Pro Tour right now, of which they have representation. They have groups private groups that they're part of that are in direct communication with the Pro Tour. I don't necessarily think that there's any particular pro, not to say they can't, that you need to be on the DGPT board to get things done with the Pro Tour. Like, if your primary focus is the Pro Tour and making changes there, the PDGA isn't the place for you. Like, the PDGA, to me, this board should be about things that involve all the players. Your AMs, your masters, your grandmasters. It should be growing the sport. It should be looking to expand in different ways, fundraise, whatever you need to do. If your bright ideas, I know how to get, exposure to the sport, great. If your bright idea is, I know how to get sponsors to the Pro Tour, good, go to the Pro Tour. The PDGA doesn't need to be really a part of that, in my opinion. Like, I want people on the PDGA board that are focused on the PDGA and the members at large. And I don't know what his campaign is. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if he's put anything out there yet, other than he's going to run. If he comes out with a bunch of stuff that's primarily pro-focused, I'll just forget him. Period. That doesn't interest me. Like, it's not a good use of a board member, in my opinion. Now, that your opinion may differ, and I respect your opinion, I would be happy to have a discussion with anybody about why you feel like a pro has a good reason to be on the PDGA board these days. Now, again, when it was the national tour before the DGPT was on board, I think that was a different time and a different subject. We're in a different place now.
Things weren't as channeled and focused back then.
Correct.
The way in which they are now. Now that you're saying there's avenues, there's outlets.
Yes.
There's other people that can take some of what your agenda and run with it.
And again, I'll be interested to see what Drew's platform is and on his ideas. I also want to see hard ideas. I want to see actual concepts. I don't want to hear silly platitudes like, I'm going to get in there and just, grow the sport. Awesome. Like, or I think I'm not even going to, but like, just, I want hard ideas.
Yeah.
I want you to come in and say, hey, I think we need to do this, and this, that these are the avenues we need to attack. Maybe even have a program lined up of what you think would better improve the sport. And those are the type of things that I want to see. I don't want to generalize. That's not just from a pro. That's from any person.
Yeah. And
if Terry ran for the thing and he's like, my job is, what I really want to do is get disc golf in schools. Like, great. Everybody wants that. How do you want to do it? Like, what are your avenues to do that? That is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for details.
Yeah, and does anybody, maybe somebody on the board saw it. I just looked on, he didn't make an actual post on Instagram. That is a post.
I think he did on Twitter.
Maybe that's
I think it was on Twitter.
Because I was just looking for it, and I would love to read exactly how and what he wrote, because that was something that came in very recently.
It was like 2 or 3 days ago we put that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to say I didn't find it on his Facebook or on his... okay. He said, I wasn't kidding. If I'm willing to complain, he says in air quotes, or not in air quotes, in actual quotes, sorry, I'm using air quotes, and say, I wish things were different. I want to at least try to be part of that process. No promises, but at least I tried to put my name in the hat.
Yep, and he has a screenshot that says, "Hi Drew, we have received the candidate submission for the PDGA Global Board of Directors. Your application will be reviewed by the nominating committee, in which will reach out to you for more information if needed and an interview." So,
and here's where, this kind of speaks to what you were saying. This was all posted on April 18th on his Twitter. He said, so prior to that previous message, he said, I have put in my application to be on the global board. Your vote would be greatly appreciated. If I make it onto the ballot, as my focus is on driving the growth and sustainability of our sport, beginning with our governing body at the ground level.
Awesome. That is worthless. That statement right there is worthless.
Well, and
he needs to elaborate.
Yeah,
and that's what I want from him. I want more elaboration. Like that particular statement.
And then some people did ask some questions, and then he has so you can go read. I'm not going to claim this is his official platform statement clearly, but then some people kind of challenged him, looking for maybe some clarification as to what he was saying there. And so you can go read all that for yourself. It's all out there on his Twitter. As of right now, I'm sure there's going to be something. Obviously, there's going to be interviews. There's going to be things that are going to be more formal that will come. And if I'm not mistaken, I think anyone that runs for the board, there has to be, as of the last year or two.
Yeah, they have to go through a nominating committee, the nominating.
And there also has to be other letters of support, of which I've written one for someone in the past, who I'll write one for again, because I know he's just a stand-up gentleman and would make for a great board member, and that's Luke Turnbull out of Australia. So, Luke, I got your message. I haven't replied to you. Yes, I'll write you another letter of recommendation, but it's a little more of a deliberate process than it has been in prior years, and that's all been implemented in the last couple of years. So that crossed my desk, and we're sharing. So Drew Gibson has
go out and do your research on Drew. Take a look at what his ideas are. He might. I haven't, beyond that initial statement, I haven't looked, so I'm not going to make any judgments until I read more into what his ideas are. He could have some phenomenal ideas. Or I could look at him and go like, I don't think so, buddy. I don't know. I'm not making any sort of pro or con against him at this point.
No, nor am I. But I mean, if you just skim through this light interaction that he had with a number of people, you can say, I don't make promises I can't keep. I'd have to get in the position for my voice to be heard in the room. I don't have a campaign. I just believe having a sub 50-year-old person who sees the professional side of the game would be valuable to all members. And again, there's a lot of interaction. Go read it all for yourself. If you want to. That's just one spot where it was initially, I think, announced. There's going to be more.
Yeah, this is just an
detailed, elaborate stuff coming.
If he makes it past the nominating committee, they will put his whatever statement and the interview in a platform. It'll all be out there on PDGA Radio and on the website. At that point, you could really dig in more.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Again, we've seen it before, and let's hope that if he gets to that point, if anyone gets to that point, coming from that position of being a professional player and looking for that representation, we just hope that it's fruitful as best as it can be, because it feels like some of the other times it's come up short with some of our other top players.
Agreed. And again, as we said, we were in a different time. There was no
very much so
at the time.
Anyway, real quick, somebody said Trevor Harbolt, who was also on the board, as we know, for a little while. That sparked a reminder for me that I have some Chiang Mai footage that's going to come out.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm going to wait for just the right time. Now if it's not out tomorrow, it sounds like it has to wait till next week, and that's pretty much what's going to happen, because of course everybody's going to be watching the major this week. So probably next week. But yeah, Chiang Mai footage, I've got that. Trevor Harbolt featured in that.
Very cool.
So thank you for that unintentional reminder. But that was something that was just getting worked on in the last couple of days. And at some point, as Ray says, invite him on SmashBoxx. We've talked about that in the past, that depending on the quantity of overall candidates, having people on our show for interaction is something that we've welcomed, and it has happened in the past. We just always run the risk of, we don't want to have any perceived favoritism that it's like, if we can't have them all, having just a few of them
And
runs into some challenges, which is where the PDGA has stepped in and has provided, kind of official, standardized interviews with all of them. But if we can be of any asset to the process, of course, we're going to be. So, All right, let's wrap it up. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was a lot of fun. Simon hit on it perfectly as we were closing out our interview with him in the regular show. I feel like he said we barely even talked about his win at Music City, and believe it or not, we love that. Of course, we touched on it. Of course, we talked about it to some degree, but our show is not just about what happened specifically.
It's really hard with a personality like Simon too, because you want to ask him so many other things.
Questions. Yes, and he's so much more layered than. What weight was your pixel that you putted with on hole 17? And those are all valuable questions and answers to some people. It's just not usually kind of the angle in which we take. So we're so thankful that Simon was gracious with some time, because we know all of our pros are getting pulled in a million different directions, and it's only going to continue to get more and more hectic from that perspective, from a media perspective. And we're already... I haven't said it in a while. We're already at a standing offer to Kristen anytime she's won. And the last time I had reached out, this was when she won the previous weekend. Her management, which is now we're at that point, her management had said, thank you for the offer. She's just trying to focus on these last couple of events before going back and relaxing in Estonia and maybe another time. So just know the effort and the offer are always there. However, we have to respect that when you win that often, we can't expect to have you every week. Well,
no, but maybe if she wins this week, we can reach back out again and see if she'll.
And even then, she'll be traveling to Estonia, and it's going to be probably chaotic.
Is it after this weekend again she's traveling? Oh, yeah.
She goes home.
Yeah, she goes home after this weekend.
She'll be gone for
so odds are Monday she's probably going to Chicago and flying
and
out.
That's, again, obviously with some assumption that she wins. But
well, just in general.
Nonetheless. Yep. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. If you were new here tonight, thanks for coming along for our silly little ride that we call our SmashBoxx TV podcast, and subsequently the after show that is part of the podcast as we wrap things up. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's been episode 503. Enjoy the Champions Cup Major coming to you from Northwood Park in Morton, Illinois this weekend. We'll see you next week. You step inside the SmashBoxx.